All right, looks like we are now live and ready to go. We are here for the final qualifier for the Rise of the Mortarchs Season 2, and we have Iron General versus Awi Dawi for our first semifinal. We'll swing on over to the bracket at what it's looking like so far. So we have CLL Leopard up on the top bracket. The last semifinal spot is still up for battle right now. It is going to be a pair of EC clanmates duking it out. I believe they are in game 3 right now. And of course, so we will be starting with Awi Dawi and Iron General for our first one. And so far, for the picks and bans, we do have Awi Dawi picking first. He has picked Lizards, banning Dawi and Skaven. And for the counter pick on Iron General's side, he has gone with the Tomb Kings. So we'll update that. All right. So now both sides going to be building their armies now. And hopefully, we had a little bit of lag in the lobby earlier, but that should be fixed up, so everything should be running pretty smooth. And for this matchup, definitely going to be, I guess depending on who you ask, but I'd say that the Tomb Kings do have the general advantage here. The Tomb Guard do quite well for a frontline troop, and the Ushabti themselves, especially the Great Bows, can put quite a hurt on any of the large targets for the Lizardmen, and there's always things like the Sepulchral Stalkers that can really burst down those big targets as well. So it should be a fun first match. Looks like everything is going well on the stream side. Alright, yep, just double checking on that front. Looks good. Looks like we have Awi Dawi is already ready to go. All right. Should be a fun first match. A nice open field. We're going to be on Oakenhammer for the first one. So both sides are going to have plenty of open field to kind of move around. Lots of good line of sight, and both sides are now ready to go. So let's get things rolling with our first match. All right, they're loading in. We'll switch on over. And let's get this party started. All right, both sides already loaded in. Looking good for the lag department. And for the Tomb Kings being led by Iron General, looks like we do have a Casket of Souls going to be in the back line. And we have Khalida going to be rocking it up on her own Serpent here for her abilities. She does have the Blessing of Asaph, giving a little bit of reload speed, armor piercing, and base missile damage. Going to be sitting right next to that Casket of Souls, getting some good damage in. It looks like we have some Ushabti Great Bows as well, so for some more ranged buffs. We do have the Curse, but she isn't going to bring any of her melee stuff, even though she does have poison herself, good armor. And for the Priest here, we do have a Light Priest going to be bringing the Net of Amnitok and Faz protection as well. And they do have, I believe that is the item for a little buff in... Actually, no, it is the Curse of Kassar, so minus 60 armor for units in a 100-meter radius for the cast range. But otherwise, that's it for the Lords and Heroes. For the rest of the forces, we do have some Skeleton Warriors going to be across that front line, going to be relying heavily on the range, but we do have some Tomb Guard with halberds as well, and we have some Skeleton Horsemen for the mobility to kind of help chase things down, keep their back line as clear as they can, and the Casket's going to be sitting a little bit behind the hill. Ushabti going to have to move up a bit to get range of sight to be firing away, and we do have the Blessed Legion of Pakath with a little bit of armor sundering on the field as well, and a couple more Skeleton Archers. Now over for the Lizardmen side, we do have some Chameleon Skinks going to be up in the front with some Skink Skirmishers as well. And then we have some Skink Cohort in the backs as well. Pretty light on that department. We do have the Legion of Chakra, though, for the Sora Spears, and they do have a nice little ability giving missile resist in an AoE, so take a quick little look at that. So it's plus 44% missile resist for anything in a 30-meter radius. Very nice to have some of the good targets like Lord Mazda Mundi. It would be very nice to have him there. And taking a look at what they have brought, we have Net of Amnatok, we have Harmonic Convergence, we have Curse of the Midnight Wind, and we have Apotheosis as well. So a lot of spells being brought by Mazda Mundi. He also does have Shield of the Old Ones, we have Banishment, and we have the Ruination of Cities. So lots of things on Mazda Mundi. He's going to have to be pretty careful if he does want to stay clear of all of those shots going to be raining in. We do have a couple of Skink Chiefs as well, with a pair of Bastiladon Solar Engines going to be raining shots from downtown. They're going to be very careful, though, because the Ushabti will put quite a hurt on them. We do have the Chalcedon Hunters, Ripidactyl Royals ROR, with armor piercing bonus versus large, and they also do have the Toad Rage, which plus 50 armor piercing weapon damage and base weapon damage, but it does rampage them. But if they get on the right target, it's quite helpful. And we have the Umbral Tide as well, with their stock and their very good fire damage and bonus versus large on their missiles, so it should do quite a good bit of work there, because they will be able to approach pretty much unimposed. Though we do have those Skeleton Horsemen will have the mobility advantage. There isn't anything too quick other than these Ripidactyl Riders. Otherwise, so those horsemen should be able to scout things out for the Lizardmen, allow them to get line of sight and start firing away. But otherwise, that is going to be the armies. So, ready to start. Alright, so both sides ready. I hear one has readied up, and it looks like Iron General should be, I believe he is the second one, and he's going to be readying up himself. So, pretty much Lizardmen just going to have to advance as quickly as they can. Solar engines probably won't be able to be firing for too long. There's going to be a lot of stuff firing their way. The only thing is going to, looking at the armies, there isn't a whole lot of stopping power on the front line for the Lizardmen. Nothing that's really going to help punch through that front line of, it is just skeleton warriors for the most part. Yeah. Yeah, Iron General asking for permission to begin. I hear the timer counting down anyways, so they'll be starting one way or the other. Alright, timer has begun, and the armies are underway. Little movement here from the Tomb King side as they're going to be repositioning themselves. Going to be getting a nice line of sight right down the line here. I think the Lizardmen definitely thinking the Tomb Kings were going to be sitting up on this hill, taking that elevated position, but instead they are going to be going the opposite side here. But yeah, Skeleton Warriors, especially against Skinks, should be just fine at holding that front line. So the Solar Bastiladons, and Lord Mazda Mundi with his Ruination of Cities is going to have to be doing quite a bit of good work too. And there isn't a whole lot of good targets for his Harmonic Convergence. Of course, there is the Legion of Chakra, but mostly I think it's going to be for these Ripidactyl or the Chalcedon Hunters. Once they do get on a good target, dropping it on there can really help them burst down any of those large targets. But we shall see how things progress as the Casket of Souls going to be firing away already. First volley does land in, and the rest of the unit's going to be slowly moving up, looking to get some nice range in. And especially for the Iron General here, he should realize that there's going to be some Chameleon Skinks here. It's pretty much a common pick for the Lizardmen. He's just going to have to kind of sit back and know, or use these, not really sit back, but use these Skeleton Horsemen to kind of scout them out, find out where they are, and especially without any of the fast movers, there's none of the Cold One Riders or anything like that, potentially get lines of sights on other units as well. And he isn't going to be expecting these Umbral Tide necessarily, but the shot's going to be raining in. This is probably their best target right now, going to be landing in amongst, I think they were targeting the Skinks, but the Legion of Chakra, get some shots in on them. Definitely the best target, at least available now, because anything else is not really going to be hitting too heavily. They can probably hit into these grouped up Skink cohort, but instead they will be aiming for the Skink skirmishers, landing in a few good shots, doing some decent damage there. while they are going to be visible firing in on that front. But now we do see some more shots going to be start raining in, and that is actually the chosen of the gods for the Ushabti Greatbow. Going to be doing some nice bit of work firing in, clipping the Skink Chief, but they are definitely going to want to be focusing both of these Solar Bastillodons. And honestly, this chosen of the gods here, I would almost have rather gone with just the regular variant. I mean, especially unless you're expecting like Temple Guard, for example, then it's very good against them, but it's not going to have as good effect on the single targets, considering it is that nice little spread shot there. But the other unit should be able to do some nice bit of work. And actually, seeing that there isn't a whole lot of good targets for the chosen of the gods, I would the Solar Bastillodons either target the Casket of Souls or go for the regular variant of Ushabti Greatbow, just in terms of what they can do in return. It seems like the Chosen of the Gods is still doing some decent work against Skink Chief so far. And now it's just going to be trading shots here and there. And we have Net of Amnitok actually going to be dropping down onto these Tomb Guards, and is going to be followed up by a Bound Banishment right in the middle of those. Unfortunately, it's not doing as much damage as I'm sure the Lijman army would have liked, and the rest of the Lijman forces getting broken down bit by bit here, is most of the Skinks getting routed off before they even approach. And even these Skink Chiefs are taking quite a bit of damage as well. But now, actually, these Umbral Tide going to be visible, and if the Tomb Kings here are aware of that, even the Chosen of the Gods can be able to do quite a bit of good damage there. But they've used up quite a bit of their ammunition already, trying to focus down these Skink Chiefs and not really doing a whole lot of damage. Yeah, exactly. Way these shots on these Skink Chiefs, while doing damage, is using up all of your ammunition from the Chosen of the Gods in particular, is not a good use of that ammunition at all. Definitely need these Ushabti to be firing at some a little bit more expensive targets, and especially now that the Umbral Tide are here, but a beautiful Ruination of Cities going to be doing quite a bit of damage to these Tomb Guards with halberds, and getting them down will definitely allow these Colossadon Hunters to do some good work a little bit more unopposed, and once these Solar Bastillodons have used up their ammo, they won't have so much to fear. But definitely these Skeleton Horsemen are being pretty conservative in the back, and there's plenty of targets for them to kind of push into. So Iron General now is just pretty much firing away and taking the shots, and the Umbral Tide, just look how much damage it has done so far to the Chosen of the Gods, taking them way down. And now the Tomb Kings are starting to try and focus their shots on them, but it's going to be a little too late, and the Skeleton Horsemen, though, going to be responding, trying to get down. We have a Net of Amnitok actually going down on the Colossadon Hunters this time. I'm not really sure if there's going to be any follow-up from them, as the shield of the old ones does go down in response to that by the Lizardmen here. Going to be keeping these guys nice and healthy with nice 22% damage resist on that. And I think why Iron General isn't necessarily focusing down the solar engines is having the Chosen of the Gods isn't really well fit for dealing with the Solar Bastillodons. Had it been a regular variant, definitely would have been good to have both of those Ushabti firing in on that. But Lord Mazdamundi using his net now on the Skeleton Horsemen, while the Umbral Tide follow that up with a very nice salvo. Going to be taking them down very quickly themselves, and the rest of the Tomb Kings, though, just kind of slowly weathering the storm. But at this point, the Lizardmen are trading very well. They've been taking shots, or they pretty much used up all of the ammunition from the Ushabti at this point. The Chosen of the Gods has used up all of its, and I highly doubt that thing's gotten a whole lot of value. Not really choosing the best targets to fire in at, and the Blessed Legion is taking a ton of shots from the Bastillodons, and it is very low on unit count, though it doesn't take a whole lot of units to get that armor sundering, though, I mean, it's only 16 and dropping Crumbling. I don't know how many more volleys it will be getting off itself, and even the regular archers are slowly getting whittled down bit by bit, and once all of them are gone, there's not really a whole lot of stopping power, and these Tomb Guard are just kind of taking the shots now. Iron General just, I mean, sitting back at this point. He really needs to be a little bit more aggressive if he's going to try and kind of come back from this. Is he just losing that balance of power bit by bit? I mean, he had the advantage in terms of range so early on, but I think the choices of where he was spending all of his ammunition is really hurting him now in the late game. Both of the Solar Bastillodons able to completely fire away all their shots, and I mean, Lord Mazdamundi's still around, the Umbral Tide's still around. Nothing has been broken down enough to eliminate any of the threats to this Tomb King army so far. But Balance Power did get a little shift back in their direction, but Apotheosis going to be healing up the Umbral Tide, keeping them nice and healthy, but having also these two Skink Chiefs have tons of ammunition left between the two of them. And the Tomb Kings just slowly getting whittled down here as both sides just continue plucking away one at a time. Though in terms of the frontline infantry, the Tomb Kings still have that advantage working for them. I mean, the Ushabti are no slouches in melee, and there isn't really anything too big of a threat. It's just skink cohorts. Now that both of the Bastillons with solar engines have used up all of their ammunition, the Tomb Kings should really press their advantage now and try and push into the front line, though I think they're just going to wait until the last of the ammunition, which the last of the ammunition has been fired by the casket. So that is one thing for the Tomb Kings, is the casket has been able to fire away for the entire match. But now the Bastillons committing to melee. Yeah, both of them, they were able to deal, completely eradicate, I think, at least 2 units of archers overall. The Umbral Tide did, of course, help with that, but now the Skeleton Horsemen are going to start getting in to the back line here. She's going to be trying to shut down these Chameleon Skinks, but they are going to be pulling back here as the Skinks do kind of pull forward, kind of screen them out a bit, but the front line should easily go the way of the Tomb Kings here. Skink cohort instantly shattering. The other one should be routing pretty quickly as well. There is still the Legion of Chakwa here, but it is not really a whole lot of good targets for them, as the Tomb Guard, though, going to be moving forward, and Khalida here going to be getting netted, and another Ruination trying to go down here, as one that does clip these Skeleton Warriors, but overall most of those go off into nowhere, and Shield the Old Ones going down on this big fight here, as the Umbral Tide raining their fire into High Queen Khalida, and she does get a little stagger there that allows her to dodge some of the shots. Yeah, and the Skink Chiefs as well, I mean, they've gotten the value from wasting the Ushabti summon value, but also they're still going to have quite a bit of value themselves. They have a ton of ammunition left, but here are those Colossadon Riders using their Toad Rage, but a Harmonic Convergence also going down, as I was saying before, probably what that target would be on, and going to be getting right into things, but High Queen Khalida does pull out as quickly as she does, though that is going to leave these Ushabti Great Bows to fend for themselves, and they're going to be taking quite a bit of damage, though they do have Boss Protection on them, plus 30 armor and melee defense, so might be able to withstand that, but they are still taking quite a bit of a pounding from those Colossadon Hunters, and not really dishing out much in return. Now the Tomb Guard, though, going to be coming in right into their specialty, should be able to drag down these Colossadon Hunters if they do stay in that engagement, and even do some good work against the Bastillodon. And if we look back, we still have some of the Skeleton Warriors keeping those Skinks at bay, but these 2 Skink Chiefs continuing to fire in. The Mobility, the Skeleton Horsemen, trying to chase things off. They have been able to get the Umbral Tide off the field and should be chasing them completely off the map. The Skink Skirmishers about to be caught off by those Skeleton Warriors. And in the frontline engagements, the infantry support for all the big dinos is slowly getting worn down. And even this Bastillodon, if it does rout right now, could definitely be using a Cold-Blooded at this point, trying to keep its leadership nice and high, as the Colossadon Hunters do get netted down and are getting a ton of damage. They do have Apotheosis in response, trying to keep them nice and healthy, but they do rout as the shots continue to rain in from the Skeleton Archers in the rear, and they will be still at 6 models, but a few more are going to be peeled off here by the looks of things. And it is going to be down to a single entity fight for the most part, as the Bastillodons, with another Shield the Old One going down around them. There is some Halberds left on the Tomb King side, some rather healthy ones with 50 models on that front, and both of the Skink Chiefs, though, have pretty much used up all of their ammunition, firing away at the Casket of Souls, and I could definitely think of a few better targets for those shots as well. That is, while it's nice to get down, it has already used up all of its value against the Lich Priest, and actually, is Khalida even still around? I don't see her on the minimap as well. She must have been taken out while I was looking elsewhere. So it is going to be infantry versus the big dinos, and it might just be enough because there isn't really a whole lot left for the support, and the Skink Chiefs, they still have some ammunition left, so they don't need to be getting in so close to the fight here. But I think the Bastillodons definitely have the tools remaining to carry the day, and if we take a little swing on back, the Skeleton Warriors and Horsemen continuing to try and chase some things down, but the Chameleon Skinks still with their ammunition, slowing them down, slowly crumbling away the rest of the Tomb King forces. It definitely looks like the Lizardmen are going to be pulling through here in the end. The only thing that they might fall to is if the leadership of these big dinos does get a little too low. The Tomb Kings still do have the units left to help chase things off, even though those units themselves are starting to slowly crumble away to dust. But yeah, balance of power continuing to shift more and more into the Lizardmen's favor at this point. And it definitely looks like Awi is going to be taking game 1 here, as now the Chameleon Skinks coming in for a little bit of extra support here to help kind of pluck away at the remainders. As if you take a look at the stats, they still do have poison in melee, so that's going to be very helpful, kind of lowering the stats there. But Mazdamundi is getting low, though even if he does go down, I don't think there's really much left to deal with the 2 Bastillodons, as well as the Skink Chief, who is still alive and well, and that is going to be Disintegration for the Tomb King army. And that is going to be that for game 1. Awi does take it. That does put him up 1-0. And take a little look at the after-battle report here. Going to be guessing some low value on the Ushabti, though I guess they didn't quite pay for themselves. They still got 1,100 in value. The other one did pay for itself, though I think it's even with that, they were able to use up all of their ammunition, and in melee they were able to do a lot of damage. But still, I think the target priority on these Ushabti was just not quite the best. And then if we look at the Casket of Souls, getting 1,500. Otherwise, Khalida not doing so hot herself, and the rest of the Tomb King infantry kind of slow on the uptake, though the Halberds did some good work against the Dinos. Otherwise, not a whole lot of good value. I mean, the Blessed Legion just got absolutely wrecked early on. And if we look at the 2 Solar Bastillodons, is where the value's 1,700 and 2,000 on that one. This one able to pay for 2 Solar Bastillodons with just itself. And yeah, even the other big targets, the Colossadon Hunters getting 1,600, the Umbral Tide 1,000. I don't think that paid for itself. I'm pretty sure they're more expensive than that. But still some good, more burst damage for them. And then the 2 Skinks getting 700 and 650. And as mentioned earlier in chat, they probably paid for themselves just by wasting a lot of the shots from the Chosen of the Gods themselves. And Mazdamundi getting 1,000. Some of his spells didn't quite hit as well as they could have, but still nice having all of those shieldy old ones on for that battle. So let's swing on over to the main screen here, between battles. There we go. And get picks and bans. And the next map, we'll get that one set up as well, is going to be Swamp of Terror. There we are. Nice little fun map with some interesting lighting schemes going on in this one. So hopefully we get some missile factions here to kind of highlight that a bit. Alright, so neither side has any picks and bans, so that is going to be Iron General's picks first. So I do know he plays Lizardmen, and especially with Skinks, could potentially help with the water that is on the map. And there is definitely some, but he's going to be going Greenskins, banning Counts and Wood Elves. Take a quick little look at chat as well. Kind of see what else was talked about. Yeah. Alacrity, I guess, recognizing Awi from ladder, and he has done quite well in tournaments that he has done so far. I think this is his second total tournament that he's done. I don't know exactly which one he was in before. Yeah, thanks, Harbeck. Been using this throughout this series. Been doing a little touches here and there on adding a few things. And I guess Awi going to be going with Dawi against the Greenskins. So we'll update the current picks and bans for this as well, so we show the correct. So he's banning Counts, picked Greenskins, and his other ban was, what else? And the counter pick is going to be Dawi. So actually, Greenskins banning Wood Elves was actually kind of an interesting ban there, because I think generally the consensus is that the Greenskins do rather well against Wood Elves, but I know just Wood Elves in general can be a bit of a pain to deal with, and I think Iron General just maybe trying to avoid that matchup overall, because I mean, if he's plays Greenskins a bit more than I do, he's probably experienced that matchup a bit more, so he's probably a bit more familiar with, or just he's not maybe comfortable with that particular one. But I imagine Awi Dawi is going to be pretty familiar with the Dawi, so should have a good performance from there. And I think this matchup is fairly even now. I think before it used to be a bit more on the greenskin favorite, but of course with mass changes and everything like that, the Dawi are a little bit more resilient to those chariot cycles and stuff like that. But we'll see how things do go. I do know some nice builds for the greenskins, but I haven't really played it from the Dawi side too much. Though I have seen some builds that just go like either heavy on the flamethrowers, bring in either like a bunch of gyrocopters as well is a valid option. And yeah, just have to have something to deal with some of the high armored stuff. And yeah, I'm just going to see how both sides do. It looks like Iron General is already ready to go. So we'll just quick get to the last of the games all set. There we go. So both sides ready to go. So let's get on in to game 2. Should be quite a bit of fun. Nice wide open map. Overall, both sides going to be suffering the penalty from the water that is kind of spread out throughout. So you can kind of see on, actually you can't see it. Switch on over. So you can kind of see on the map here, there'll be a little bit of water here and there. A few rivers running through, but it isn't all completely covered in water. Now for the greenskins by VM General, we are going to be getting quite a bit of Night Goblins. We have some Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, we have some regular Squig Herds, and if we look at the stats on those guys, they have the armor piercing and the bonus versus infantry on the Night Goblin ones, and actually bonus versus infantry I think on the regular Squigs as well. Not sure what, I think the UI just got a little confused there and it was hiding the bonus versus infantry behind the armor piercing for a sec. We have a bunch of nasty skulkers as well with some armor piercing, and we have the rusty arrows with their armor sundering, and they have poison in melee. So it's going to be more poison from the Night Goblin Squig Hopper, so lots of armor piercing across the board, some Orc Arrow Boys as well. We have Grom the Paunch looking to be cycling in and out of things. He's going to be bringing a couple of his abilities. Looks like we have Language of the Boys, and we have the Great Un is here for those two lovely spells. And we have the Giant River Troll Hag going to be bringing Spirit Leech, as well as Blast and Mither, to kind of slow things down and shut down most likely the Gyrocopters, the only thing you would really be mithering. But lots of mobility, lots of things with stock for the greenskins. We'll see how that works for them. Now for the Awi Dawi's forces of the Dawi, we do have a bunch of miners with blasting charges going to be taking that front line, and they're going to be having some more miners in front, so lots of cheap frontline infantry. We do have Ekron miners as well, who have a little bit more of ammunition, and we're going to be rocking the organ guns as well. But unfortunately, there isn't going to be a whole lot of very good targets for them to be firing into. We have some Thunderers, and then some Warriors of Dragonfire Pass to potentially work against any of the trolls that might be coming. We have the Skyhammer Gyro Bomber as well, going to be rocking it in, and then some Dwarf Warriors in the back going to be defending that line, and we do have one more unit of Quarrelers as well. So pretty much just everything can be defending these organ guns and all the miners to hopefully clear away a lot of the chaff infantry. There's not going to be a whole lot of infantry coming their way, as the Awi Dawi will soon be finding out, and Iron Thunder might just have the tools necessary to break through this box here. With pretty much all of his units have armor piercing at this point. I mean, the only things that don't are the archers. One does have armor sundering as well, and then Grom the Paunch is going to be having just bonus versus infantry, but a very interesting pick. Definitely one I haven't seen on the greenskin side of things. But we'll see how things are ready to go, and I can just tell everyone to start when ready. When ready. There we go. Yeah, we should be able to see a bit of the lighting play on the... I mean, in a way, it is, I think it's a little bit of a newer map, but it's been around at least since the Grom's DLC, so... But the lighting is a little differently, and there is a bit of water mixed in here, so I think that's probably why one of the reasons it's been absent from a lot of tournaments. But otherwise, it's a very open map, and yeah, the lighting itself is rather interesting, which we should be able to start seeing pretty soon, as the shots are going to start raining in downtown, as the Skyhammer is going to be firing away. Not a whole lot that's going to be able to bring that thing out of the sky, so it should be able to have nice free reign at firing in. There are some of the archers, but they're not really going to be able to put enough damage down. But we do have that blast spell going up, hitting that Skyhammer, and a Spirit Leech as well, going to be ticking away at it. Okay, so it is from the Warden and the Punch. I just know it's relatively new. We are going to be getting a little bit of a surround. Aoi using some of the terrain to help with one of his flanks, though otherwise it is going to be just trying to repel things with the miners, but they're not going to be doing a whole lot of damage to these squig herds, and especially the squig herds have that mobility, should be able to actually dodge some of the shots as well. But now the Skyhammer seeing some of the units. We do have the 8-peak loonies as well, which I must have missed earlier on. Also a very good unit with their fanatics being able to get things pretty much cleared out, especially against dwarf warriors. But now the Nasty Skulker is going to start slowly approaching and getting into the front line here. So far out of reach of the miners with blasting charges right now, though they will make quick work of them. They do have only 15 armor themselves, and the organ guns are singing right now, doing some work against the Orc Arrow Boys, taking some shots out of them. And you can see the blue arrows falling in amongst the front line of the miners, and the Thunderer is going to be firing away. And I did miss Grombrindle is the Lord for the Dawi as well. Just take a quick little look. It looks like he has the smoke bombs and the rune axe as well, and Grom gonna be cycling in to that back line now. Not a whole lot that can shut him down very quickly. There is the Skyhammer, of course, which is able to fire pretty much unopposed. The only thing is Spirit Leeches and the archers, which are taking a ton of damage so far, and Grom is just going to be slowly taking damage from those shots. The organ guns really didn't have any good line of sight on him, and now all the squigs going to be collapsing, and we see those fanatics going right on through these this unit of dwarfs here, doing a nice bit of damage, and even the miners doing a little bit of friendly fire by the looks of things. And the 8-peak loonies are gonna still have enough health left over for another cast or two if they are able to stay a little bit more conservative. But now the green tide is just surrounding this Dawi formation. Miners are starting to get broken down, shattering left and right, but some of the Durkat Squigs going as well, as the Skyhammer starts dropping its bombs on the rest of that formation, as there is a nice little clumped up here. But the Wa does go off, giving them a nice little bit of boost here. Immune to psychology, and the like coming on in with a nice base melee attack, base weapon damage, and a bit more armor piercing. And against the Dawi, always very, very helpful. But the Dawi definitely getting pushed back now. The organ guns still firing. I can hear them going, but it is slowly getting broken down bit by bit, as now they are starting to get shut down. And a beautiful explosion here right in the middle of those nasty skulkers and those Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. And the organ guns, yeah, now actually it might still stay online here, but we still have some more squig herds kind of coming in. But most of the mobility now can easily peel off for the greenskins, especially the stuff that does return from routing, and just kind of make sure all of these Dawi troops get escorted off the field, as the rest of the archers now can continue to fire in, as the Sky Hammers can start taking a bit more of that damage, as these archers were able to sustain themselves from most of that fire, as it is going to be pulling a little bit out of the way, as Grombrindle has no fear, did go off, keeping it as many of those Dawi forces alive and well, but it's going to be a little bit for naught, as the green tide is overwhelming that Dawi formation. Not a whole lot they can do at this point. Some of all of the organ guns shattering now, and it is pretty much just down to Grombrindle, as army losses are getting very, very close, though he will fight to the bitter end. Though with all of this armor piercing and bonus versus infantry units left for the greenskins, not a whole lot that can be done on his end, as all of the targets that he would like to get on can just kind of sit off into the distance and just kind of cackle away as he slowly gets broken down bit by bit. And another Spirit Leech going to be pushing that Skyhammer off, and that is army losses now for the Dawi. And Grombrindle will have to hold back everything that he can, but it is not going to be quite enough, as there is just way too much armor piercing left. And everything dogpiling into this mess right now, as, yeah, Grombrindle is just going to be a little bit too beset here, though he can do some decent damage against that Giant River Troll Hag. And even if he does focus solely on that Giant River Troll Hag on Grom, just not going to be enough to deal with all of the squigs that are left surrounding him. There's just way, way too many things left in this fight. Something does get peeled off, but yeah, it's just not going to be quite enough. It looks like we have a smoke bomb. I think that was a smoke bomb. Yeah, only a matter of time now. Grom taking a hit from the Giant River Troll Hag's bag of meat, and there is that smoke bomb going off, getting that minus 24 melee defense, charge speed, and speed, but it is not going to matter. Yeah, Grombrindle is going to die, drowned in squigs. He is in there somewhere, as he is slowly getting worked down, and there is just the mass of infantry. Giant River Troll Hag standing head and shoulders, going for the hit. I don't even know if I can see Grombrindle left in here, as I think he does finally fall to the green tide. There he is. Now he finally does fall. And that is going to be our second match. Iron General does tie it up. So we are 1-1 going into the rubber match. Take a little look. Yes, he is in there somewhere, Iron Fist. And all of the squig nasty skulkers, not really doing a whole lot of damage. The 8P Loonies on the end did quite well. Otherwise, just kind of looking through what was left, pretty much the squigs did carry the day, getting a ton of value between them, or at least, I mean, paying for themselves. 1 unit, 1,000, 850. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, pretty spread out. Nothing too outlandish on that side. And organ guns, pretty much all the range of the Skyhammer did quite well. It was pretty much unopposed. I mean, had the Dawi gone with like more, like pretty much a gyrocopter spam, it probably would have been able to do very well, because the archers just wouldn't have been able to deal with that. But going for that minor box, really was expecting more of a rush, and it was a rush. It was just an armor-piercing mass of squig hoppers that was a little too quick for the Dawi to respond to, and quickly surrounded their entire formation. But now let's kind of get in, let's get the next map set for them, as it is going to be Sword of Torgold. Is set. All right. Yep, definitely a very fun build on Iron General's side. So we'll see what we have for the next one. So since Iron General won that one, so Iron General hits 3. Okay, so take a look at the bracket for our next semifinal. So it will be Leopard and the green one. So I'll just ping them in Discord. All right, just so they're aware of that. And Iron General is picking his, or thinking about his picks for this. So we haven't seen Iron General's Lizardmen, and from earlier matches, I know he does like them, so I'm guessing we're going to see those guys thrown into the mix here, seeing how he does seem to like using them. That should be one of his threes by my guess. Otherwise, I do know he plays Beastmen. So actually, yeah, so he's going Chaos, Lizardmen, Wood Elves, and he's going to be banning Rotonia. So in that regard, it could open up the door for a Skaven pick. What else? Coast. Coast is kind of a... We could see Coast, but Chaos has done quite well against them as of late. And then Wood Elves is kind of up in the air, because considering how they can play it. In the past, they were still very useful, but with kind of some of the loss of that wall of lead that the Coast had, and kind of the ammunition drops on things like Luther, can definitely be a little bit more even there, especially against a rush, which the Wood Elves definitely have quite a bit of tools for that one. All right, so we have Skaven. So as I said before, it did open up that Skaven door, and he is going to be banning Wood Elves. And given Iron General's experience with, I think, against Skaven as of late, with Lizardmen, I'm going to be guessing we're going to be seeing Chaos here. So yeah, it was Chaos, Wood Elves, oops, and Lizardmen, and yeah, he is going to be going Chaos as he instantly actually readies up. Must have a little build all ready to go against the Skaven. So yeah, it's going to be a Chaos versus Skaven. So Chaos, there's a few different builds that they can use. One that I've seen a little bit more often is probably the Forsaken and Spawn Rush. Forsaken, while they do cost a little bit more, they can quickly break through pretty much everything that the Skaven can throw at them. And the Spawn, of course, are unbreakable, which helps a lot with those pushes. And it's just going to have to be seeing how Skaven can hold that back, and they have Rat Ogres that can hold that back, but it's always going to be Poison Wind units. You have either the Globadiers, the Mortars are very good, kind of holding things back, and with the map size, the actually Warp Lightning Cannons could also be a good pick as well, considering they have the space to be able to continue firing away at the approach of the Chaos forces. So Iron General may have gone with a more... maybe not quite so much of a rush build. He could potentially bring a Hell Cannon, though, of course, with Warp Lightning Cannons, that is a threat as well. Though we'll kind of see what Iron General's got here. The map for this is the Sword of Torgold, J Phoenix. So that is set. Yes, you guys can't see that, but it is Sword of Torgold. Yeah, maybe not shooting Spawn, but yeah, depending on what Chaos does have, because especially if they don't bring those, but there is a Hell Cannon, could be a bit of a problem. But of course, that's the same thing with that Iron General would be thinking. Well, if they have a Warp Lightning Cannon, don't really want to have a Hell Cannon then. So a little bit of mind games in that regard. But I know J Phoenix definitely knows this Skaven side of things a lot better than I do. So we'll see what both sides do end up bringing. while we do wait, we do have our next matchup set. It is going to be EC, the green one, for our next fight against Leopard. He did beat his clanmate, so that'll be our next fight there, and whoever wins that series will win the winner of this match. Hey, Blackthorn, welcome back. Oh, that is quite right, J Phoenix. The slings, definitely good against spawn. Because considering they have, I think it's like 15 armor total. The weird spawn do have physical resist, but overall they are quite good against spawn, and especially considering how cheap the slingers are, they are only 200. They do quite well on that front. Yeah, you could see Exalted Heroes on Manticores, because that does eliminate their Rampage. Because regular ones, it's fairly easy to Rampage them down, and depending on what you have to counter them, because if you have just a bunch of Rat Ogres jump on them after that, you can quickly lose that value very fast. And it's, yeah, generally to pay a little bit more for the Exalted Heroes is usually beneficial, especially that considering the Chaos can do that, unlike some factions who have Manticore possibilities, like Norska, for example. Yeah, you just missed the, I don't know if you saw the first match or not, but we only had 2 games so far. Blackthorn, this is our 3rd match, and we'll be getting into this next semifinal bracket after this one. You know, just waiting on Awidawi. Looks like he's just about getting finished up, and there he is. He is readied up, and Iron General was ready, so we should be able to get right on in to this rubber match for our first semifinal series. Yes, yeah, the Squig just mass rush was quite a fun build indeed. So loaded on in, we'll switch on over to the main screen, and yeah. All right, and we are loaded in. I do see some Manticores up in the sky, and it's not going to be the Exalted variant, but we do have the Demon Spew in here. It's the Forsaken ROR. It does have poison, otherwise it's Chaos Marauders. We do have that Chaos Spawn Rush that is going to be incoming, and we have Sartorial, the Everwatcher, going to be bringing just Final Transmutation. Looking to really get that blob going and drop some of those big juicy bombs there. Otherwise, we do have quite a bit of mobility, as well as we have some Marauder Horsemen going to be thrown into the mix with some Chaos Warhounds. Just the regular variant, we have no poison, but the Manticores, while they don't have the Exalted Heroes on top of them, they are still very good units, and especially against Skaven, able to jump on either their Lords or able to shut down some weapons teams. Otherwise, it is a pretty straightforward rush for the most of the infantry fight. Lots of units to kind of surround or kind of charge that Skaven line, and plenty of mobility as well to kind of get into that back, start firing away and pressure that back line of the Skaven. And speaking of the Skaven, let's take a look at what they have for us. We have some Clan Rats, Skaven Slaves. We actually have the Avalanche Mortars. They don't have Poison Wind, but they do a ton of damage considering they have, so it's magic damage and armor piercing. and it has a very nice spread, so it can do quite a bit of damage there. We do have those slingers against the spawn, though there is only one of them by the looks of things. We do have some Poison Wind Globadiers, though. We have 3 units of those, so quite a bit of sources of poison, wind on the Skaven side, and then is just going to be a box. Then I think these are the Council Guard, the Storm Vermin with Halberds, as they are unbreakable. Very nice unit to throw in the mix, kind of hold. It looks like they're going to be holding that back line to kind of keep those mobility that the Chaos will have at bay. And we have a Mortarchs Hellion as well. Mortarchs Hellion does have the Zap Zap ability, which is kind of reduces or increases the ability to recharge. So if it is able to get on, really Sartorial is the only thing that he can really affect here. I don't think anything else really has any abilities. Also does magic damage, and I think Sartorial has magic resist as well. I'd have to double check on that. We have a Plague Priest underneath Throt the Unclean by the looks of things. So Throt the Unclean going to be bringing his Beast Pack. He has the Creature Killer, Remoldered, as well as Master Controller and the Plague Priest. Looks like we have the 2 summons. Actually, that first one, so Vermintide and Pestilent Birth for Clan Rats and Plague Monk summons. So lots of summons for the Skaven side. If they lose their front line, they'll just summon another. And both sides, I believe, are ready, so it can start when ready. I think Iron General has already hit the button to go. So the shot's going to start raining in fairly quickly as both sides are nice and set up and ready to go. So it should be a nice fun match here. It's pretty much going to be, can the Skaven hold back the rush of the Chaos long enough for their Poison Wind to do a ton of damage? And each of these Poison Wind Globadiers, they're only 550, so they can get a ton of value very, very quickly. Most of the time, you're going to see them easily pay in for themselves a couple times over. And the Avalanche Mortars, though, going to be opening up the engagement with a nice salvo here, just nuking these horsemen, taking them down to half health on a single volley, and they almost ended up routing just off of that single shot. But they should be alive and well, so they down to 37 models out of 45, so they didn't lose too many, but another volley going to be landing on in, taking off another quarter of their health, and they do rout from that salvo, and we have Throt getting pretty ahead of himself. He does have to be a little careful because there is all of these Chaos Spawn mixed in, and they can quickly get a nice little surround off on him, and even though he is very quick, those Chaos Spawn should be able to hold him in place. And now the shot's going to be raining down. That salvo didn't quite find its mark, much like the first 2 did, as the Chaos Forces are now going to be charging on down the hill and then going to be having a little uphill fight, as the Skaven, though, going to be sitting back, continuing to rain down these Death Globes from above, doing some very nice damage to the Forsaken there, clearing out some of that chaff-killing power that those guys do have. And Sartorial also going to be charging on in, as we do have a summon of Rat Ogres already being used by Throt, maybe a little early in that regard. It's usually very good to be help deal with like Sartorial, for example, but looks like Throt's going to be engaging in that department, with Sartorial is going to give him the nod and pick up that engagement. It looks like we do have a final transmutation, though, going to be dropping into this pile of things. It is the Overcaster, going to be catching these slingers as well as some Clan Rat Spears, and I think that's maybe a little bit of a waste there. I mean, it did hit Throt as well, but still that there's a lot of units there that's just pretty cheap overall. But the Avalanche Mortars are getting compromised by the Chaos Feral Manticore right now, and it should be just getting close to being rampaging now for its first one, but the Chaos Warhounds are going to be feasting today as they jump into the back line, shutting down these Poison Wind Globadiers, as well as these Horsemen going to be charging in as well. And with those Hounds, those should make very quick work of those Poison Wind Globadiers. They are holding back, at least for the time being. They do have 100 armor, but there are very few, I guess there's not very few of them, but they should be able to withstand it, at least for now. The Spears have responded to try and deal with things, but now Mortarchs Hellion is dueling one of the Chaos Feral Manticores, and actually Sartorial has taken a ton of damage as well from Throt the Unclean, though Throt has taken some damage in return, but he has healing while Sartorial does not, so Sartorial isn't going to want to be taking that for too much longer. Going to be trying to pull back, but Throt's going to be pretty relentless in his chase. He's definitely going to have to be mucked up as best that he can, so Chaos is going to have to try to keep things at bay. We do have one of the Poison Wind Globadiers has been completely shut down and shattered, and the rest of the units are getting broken down in that back line as the mobility should start sweeping through into the other Poison Wind units, and the Avalanche Mortars as well has survived, but the balance power is in the Skaven's favor, especially considering how much damage Sartorial and both of the Chaos Feral Manticores have taken so far. And yes, Alacrity, 100 armor on those Globadiers is quite hard for most units to really kind of shut them down, because missile fire generally isn't going to be doing too much damage for them. They really just have to get overwhelmed, because I mean, their leadership isn't always that great. But yeah, 100 armor, definitely a tough nut to crack. You really just need to get them engaged in melee, shut them down as quickly as they can. But it looks like that one is going to be terrified from Sartorial and going to be not quite breaking naturally just yet, but we do have some more of the Poison Wind Globadiers are back in action, but the Chaos Feral Manticore are going to be instead jumping on top of the Avalanche Mortars, trying to shut them down, but Skaven continuing to push forward bit by bit in that balance of power as the Chaos is just kind of running out of things to kill things with, as they still have some mobility advantages left, but overall Sartorial is very, very low, and there's still Morkastar's Hellion. Throt is constantly healing up, and the Chaos Feral Manticores are now very low as well, and Chaos just has been unable to completely deal with these Poison Wind Globadiers. They haven't been able to completely shut them down, so they've just been able to, at least some of them have been able to keep firing in for pretty much the entire match. They are doing a bit of friendly fire here, considering anything that they do hit does take that Poison Wind damage, as most of these Chaos or the Demon Spew are going to be slowly getting pushed back. And now Sartorial gonna be running from the Morkastar's Hellion here. Did I say something wrong there, Jimmy? Yes, but Skaven definitely going to be pulling more and more ahead here. It's going to be... But now they're just pretty much going to be regrouping here. They don't need to overchase too much, which is pretty much how the Skaven are going to be picked apart. If they do get a little bit too spread out, the bounce power is so much in their favor now. Like, even if they do, I'm not sure if it's going to be possible. I think like Throt and that Hellion are going to be pretty much carrying the day here, as the Skaven's going to kill their way to another victory. Though the Horsemen still have a bit of ammunition left, might be enough to deal with Morkastar's Hellion. But the Poison Wind Globadiers should be able to keep firing away, as they are spreading those shots across these Horsemen. And the Horsemen really need to try and stay out of range. He is also... Yeah, he's just slowly healing up anyways, and yeah, if he uses Remoldered on Morkastar's Hellion, that's going to be game, set, and match, but it looks like things going to be getting pushed back, and with how close they are to the edge of the map here, I don't think these units are going to be coming back anytime soon, especially considering Throt is so fast. He'll be able to stay on top of all these units. These units have shattered, and I think army losses are now just very close from happening. I mean, Sartorial is unbreakable. He will fight to the bitter end, but it is going to be too little, too late. Horsemen being pushed off the match, for some reason still firing despite the fact that they were routed. We are going to be getting a final transmutation. Might be enough to deal with Morkastar's Hellion if it does stay in. It is an overcast, and actually it probably will finish off Morkastar's Hellion, especially if it does continue the chase. And down goes the Hellion, but so Sartorial does take one last victim, but Throt will prove to be too much for him in the end, as he does, especially with the Council Guard as well. They have 58 models, going to be able to break down Sartorial pretty quickly, and Iron General does bow out as the Skaven do pull through, and Awi Dawi will take the first spot in the final. So Throt racking up 2,200, but the Poison Wind is going to be where it's at, 1,500, 1,000, and 1,200 on each of these Globadiers. And yeah, man, these Globadiers did so much value. The Avalanche Mortars did some nice volleys early on, only 1,400, and I'm pretty sure they're more expensive than that, because the base Poison Wind Mortars are 1,000. The Hellion, 1,100, but yeah, most of that damage was in those Poison Wind Globadiers. Now, a bit of that is going to be friendly fire, of course, but it is just Skaven, Slaves, and Clan Rats for the most part. Otherwise, taking a quick little swing on through these units, not a whole lot there. The Plague Priest, I'm actually not sure where it ended up earlier on, but yeah, the Chaos Spawn, not able to do enough. The Chaos Feral Manticores, though, did quite well themselves, but we're not able to finish the job. There was just a little too much to deal with. So this is a very interesting. So you see the Demon Spew has 168 kills, but only gets 228 in value. Well, this one gets 8 kills and almost matches that. So the Forsaken just got nuked so early on by all that poison wind damage. Unfortunate for Chaos. Just weren't able to pull through as both sides have bowed out. And I believe we have a lobby up for the next one already. So I'll go and switch on over to that. If we can update the bracket as well. Awi does advance. And let's see if I can find the next one. Should be able to see it. There we are. So we heading on in here. Throt did quite well, Gato, but most of it was the Poison Wind. The Globadiers did insane work for that first match. So I'm just going to ask them what were picks and bans. So we'll update the contenders as well. So we have Leopard on the left here. And on the right, we have EC, the green one. And score is 0-0. Okay, so Leopard picked Empire, banning Skaven and Dawi, and we have green one going Dark Elves for this first match. So Empire is going to be banning Skaven and Dwarves. Dwarves definitely a must ban for the Empire. And then after that, there isn't really anything too bad for the Empire. I mean, Lizardmen can be a little rough, Skaven as well, but overall the Empire can handle pretty much any other faction. It's just kind of down to personal preference at that point, but the Dwarves definitely a must ban if you are going to be picking Empire. So ban 1, ban 2. And we have Dark Elves for the counter. Haven't seen Dark Elves yet today. Or Empire, I believe. So some nice new factions thrown in. Okay, so I believe that 1.5k would have been the Poison Winds. Or not, but the Avalanche Mortars. So... all right, so we are into our second semifinal. And again, this is a best of 3. They have the map all set for me, so we'll just kind of wait. We have, it looks like Leopard is ready to go, just waiting on the green one. And we'll be getting on in to our next one. Good matches so far. So plenty of more good ones should be on the way. All right, both sides are ready to go. And they are loading on in. We'll switch on over in just a sec. Yeah, Empire versus Dark Elves is a fairly even matchup, I'd say. It's a pretty fun one at that. Should be seeing some mobility on both sides. Let's swing on over to that as they are loaded on in. We'll update this little size of this so text fits on in. There we go. All right, so for the Empire being led by Leopard, we have some crossbowmen for some range department. And then we have some spearmen with shields in the front. We do have a great cannon as well. And for the Lord, we have an Arch-Lector, not a Lord you often see. Most of the time you are going to be seeing a legendary Lord of some kind for the Empire, either Volkmar or Karl Franz, who is the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, as well as the Grand Shield of Faith. For Lords, we actually do have a couple of casters as well. So we have a Jade Wizard, going to be bringing Earthblood, and we have a Light Wizard bringing the Net of Amnentok for a little bit of snares, and we have quite a bit of mobility as well, as we have some Knights of the Blazing Sun, a couple of units of those. We have the Zintler's Reichsguard, the Reichsguard ROR, and they do have immune to psychology, and we have a couple of Pistoliers as well for that skirmish. And yeah, the front line was those Spearmen. We do have some Flagellants as well mixed in, and Sigmar Sons, so we have a trio of unbreakable units to hold back the tide of the Dark Elves, and then just some crossbowmen for some nice steady fire against kind of the low armored units of the Dark Elves. And for the Dark Elves, we do have the Dreadspear front line. We have a couple of bolt throwers as well, should be able to take care of those cannons without too much of a problem, and then can turn their attention to the mobility and the other cav units for the Empire. And then we have a Scourge Runner Chariot as well. There's not a whole lot that the Empire has that deal with that Scourge Runner. One sec. There we go. And then for the rest of the forces, we have some Dark Shards for the range. We have actually 3 Witch Elves, so plenty of options to rampage incoming cavalry. So they're pretty much going to try and bait them in, get them rampage with these Witch Elves and the Sisters of Singing Doom. Get some nice shots off onto them, as these guys do have Fear and Terror as well, which is quite nice. And they all have the Madness of Cain, which is that rampage when they do damage to a unit. And then we have some Cold One Knights in the rear. So the initial advantage in mobility is going to be towards the Empire, though the Dark Elves definitely have more tools to whittle that down without taking too much of any frontal engagements, as they have 2 Reaper Bolt Throwers should be able to deal with the Great Cannons, and then of course the Scourge Runners will be able to kind of kite away throughout the course of the fight and do a lot of damage to those a lot more expensive, like Knights of Blazing Sun, for example. And we have the Supreme Sorceress of Death for the Lord. We're going to be bringing Spirit Leech and the Fate of Buna as well, so plenty of tools to whittle down the mobility that the Empire will be having. And they have the Opal Amulet as well, giving a nice little bit of damage resistance in case that she does get caught out. That is going to be it for the forces here, so they can start when ready. All right. Oops. Accidentally took a screenshot. All right, well, I think both sides should be set up. Good luck, have fun on both sides. And now let's get this party started. Oh, they do have the clock set to 40, so I'll have to remind them to... Well, we shouldn't... If we hit to 40 minutes on a game, that's going to be something else indeed. Alright. Good evening, Alicia. Welcome. You are in time for our second semifinal. Alright. Okay, there we go. Both sides have now readied up, so let's get these shots firing. So the Empire taking that high ground. They will have the Great Cannons have nice line of fire to fire in, but as soon as these Reaper Bolt Throwers get in range, should be able to start plucking away at that. And we do have an overcasted Spirit Leech going to be going down on those Great Cannons, getting that nice little cast range. Didn't take any overcast fire, though it might be taking a few cannon shots here, though it is going to be healing away some of the health on these units and allowing those Reaper Bolt Throwers to do just a little bit extra work. Not a whole lot, but enough cast should quickly be able to break that unit down. And then at that point, the Empire is going to be forced to advance. But for the time being, they can sit back and fire, though I think the Leopard should realize he is going to be outgunned in the artillery department very early on and just start moving up with everything at this point. Just try and close that distance as best he can. Doesn't want to be playing that game, trying to artillery duel, both of these Reaper bolt throwers. There's no way they're going to be able to contend that, so he's just going to have to try and get as much value as he can. At this point, either firing in at the Supreme Sorceress or really any of the other infantry units is probably going to be the best bet for them, because I don't think he's going to be in range for that any of the other units. Though the Great Cannon, I think, is actually in range of those Cold One Knights, could start firing in there or target the Scourge Runner chariots, but is already dropping models, and I think that is all 3 of them already gone. So much for being able to shoot at all. The Great Cannon is quickly been put offline, and now the Empire is going to be put on the back foot a little bit early on, as all these Reaper bolt throwers are going to be able to start picking away at the mobility of the Empire, or potentially could start firing in at any of the casters, which does look like that is going to be what they're doing, aiming for that Jade Wizard, trying to get rid of the healing on the Empire side. Though at this point, I think it might be even better just to start firing into either the Knights of Blazing Sun or the Zintler's Reichsguard on that. Looks like we have a net dropping down on top of the Scourge Runner Chariot. It's going to allow the Reichsguard to get a nice little charge in, and is going to be able to do some very nice damage. And we do have another Spirit Leech going to be dropping on top of that Archlector, but the Scourge Runner Chariot's quickly taking damage, as you can just see that health bar dropping very, very fast. And I don't think they're going to be able to pull out of that, as they do end up routing. And the Reichsguard, very nice catch there by the Empire with that net of Amnentok. And now the rest of the force is going to be clashing in that front line, as the mobility starts to kind of circle around in the back. We still have the Knights of the Blazing Sun. We actually kind of, well, the Pistoliers are going to be slowly kiting away. But yeah, getting those archers. So actually, yeah, the Reaper bolt throwers ended up getting shattered there. Getting those archers in range of the bolt throwers. So yeah, the Dark Elves probably should have been pushing up as well, and they ended up kind of getting a little bit burned by not doing so. We still have 1 Reaper bolt thrower alive and well, though the other archers should be in range or very close to in range to start doing what they did to the other one. Scourge Runner has returned, but now we still are starting to see some of the units in the back line of these crossbowmen starting to get things done, as the Dark Shards are going to start returning that missile fire. But yeah, the Reaper bolt thrower slowly taking that damage, and the mages are both sitting pretty right now. Not a whole lot of pressure going their way, as both of the Knights Blazing Sun and the Zintler's Reichsguard trying to catch these Scourge Runner Chariots, but the Scourge Runner Chariot is able to kind of get free once again. It still has all 3 of its models, so it isn't going to be able to continue firing it, but it looks like we have another net going to be dropping down right on top of it. And here comes the Cav charge once again. This time should be able to put that thing in the ground once and for all. And the Cold Blood Knights are being a little cautious right now. I know they need to be a little careful with what the Empire has in terms of cavalry, but they do need to commit somewhere. Right now they are trying to peer off the Spearmen, and the Scourge Runner now going to be routing and very likely shattering. It is getting exceptionally low on health, has lost 2 of its units. The Reaper bolt thrower is still trying to pluck away at the Jade Wizard. Luckily, actually, though, is on foot, had been on horse, been taking probably a little bit more damage, and yeah, the Scourge Runner does finally drop. And the shots from the crossbowmen still trying to finish off that Reaper bolt thrower. It is still sitting nice and fine. With this engagement here, we have the Archlector giving, there's an Earthblood going down on it as well, and it should have its the shield and the hammer still sitting around, but the Cold Blood Knights getting rampaged, while the Knights of Blazing Sun are taking a bit of damage themselves. The Zintler's Reichsguard should be able to finish things off here, and then once that Cold Blood Knights is gone, both of them should be pulling out, getting away from those spears, while the Knights of the Blazing Sun do come in for a nice little rear charge, might be able to break the backs of those spearmen. So it is now going to be just down to these 2 Cold One Knights trying to clean up the rest of the units, and they should have a nice little alleyway to shut down these crossbowmen, at least for right now, while a lot of the mobility is kind of off in the fringes here, chasing things down. Great Cannon, actually the Jade Wizard getting routed off, the crossbowmen unable to finish those Reaper bolt throwers in time, and they are going to be paying the price a little bit there. While the last of the unbreakable units is getting slowly whittled down. A net does go down, though, on these Cold One Knights. Just one of them, keeping them in place and allowing the shots just to rain in on them, and allowing these Knights of the Blazing Sun to kind of start coming in. But this net should dissipate before they get in, though it might just last long enough for them to get the charge off. Though it does wear off, but they do not get any orders, and they get charged by the Zintler's Reichsguard, and the Knights of Blazing Sun do get a nice charge into these Cold One Knights, and Empire definitely pulling through heavily now in this late game, despite losing that cannon pretty much right off the bat. The Empire has been able to have nice target priority, and those nets have really been on point so far throughout the course of this fight, and Green One does withdraw, giving Leopard the first win of the set. So update that scorecard there. And taking a look at the after battle report, I think if the cavalry on the Empire side doing some very good work. Nothing too outrageous, though. They were able to get some nice charges, though, onto the Scourge Runners, shut them down very early on. And yeah, the Cold One Knights just didn't quite do very well themselves. The Reaper Bolt Throwers able to do some decent, actually, even them, they didn't do a whole lot of good work. The Cav Pay on the Empire side definitely is what carried it for the Empire, and the Dark Shards did some nice damage. Witch Elves kind of a little lackluster, and even the Sorceress of Death, but yeah, just the cavalry play was way better on the Empire side, and that Light Wizard was very, very on point, getting those all of the nets that were used were very effective, able to make sure that they were getting the charges versus the other way around. And yeah, just the front line held just long enough for all of the crossbowmen to get some nice, decent value themselves throughout the course of the fight. It's very well played. Let's get on into the next one, though, as we switch on over to the between screens. So since I am spectating this, we'll be able to see the armies for both sides, or at least for one side. So let's see what we've got. So we've got... Okay, so we have Green One going Greenskins, banning Counts and Coast, and Leopard is going to counter with Chaos. That is actually a fairly interesting counter. Most people will say Greenskins have a very good matchup into Chaos, though I guess with the changes to the Lords, the Chaos has a bit more tools to deal with things, though we'll see how well that works out. I don't know if he's planning on trying to have Sigmar carry the, or not Sigmar, Sigvald to carry the day. So we'll update the current picks and bans to reflect this next match. As it is Greenskins banning Counts and Coast. There we go. So we'll see how this fight is. Now, Greenskins have quite a few heavy hitters with like Stone Trolls. Grom is a very nuisance for the Chaos Forces to deal with, and just the mass skirmish as well that the Greenskins can bring. They can bring just a ton of Spider Riders, Archers, and melee variants. So they can have a ton of poison sources, very strong front line, and the Chaos Forces themselves have some decent mobility as well, where they have a bunch of poison sources. They have just like their horsemen are fairly decent, though with the poison that the archers have, and they don't necessarily land as many hits as they can. Let's get a little drink here quick. But looks like Leopard is ready to go. See how well he is able to handle this. But we'll see if the Greenskins are able to win, because they should have the mobility advantage. Though, yeah, it's going to be a little interesting. It's an interesting counter pick, to say the least. All right, Green One is ready as well, so we'll be getting on into our second fight. Scorecard is up to date, as Leopard did take the first one, so now we are loading on into this next one. As soon as they are loaded in, we'll switch on over to the main screen. So we are back on Swamp of Terror. Plenty of room for both sides to have quite a bit of mobility. And then we'll load on in, go over the armies, and we'll get right back into the action. All right, going for about an hour and a half now. All right, so Chaos has loaded on in. So for the Leopard's Forces of Chaos, let's see what we have. As we have quite a bit of Chaos Warhounds. We have a couple with Poison, a couple of the regular variant. We have Chaos Marauders for a frontline, pretty cheap frontline infantry. We have an Exalted Hero up on a Manticore, as well as a Chaos Sorcerer of Shadows. Going to be bringing, looks like we have Enfeebling Foe and Pendulum by the looks of it. So we have Pendulum and Enfeebling Foe, and of course we do have Prince Sigvald the Magnificent, as he is going to be bringing his Auric Armor, giving himself a nice little bit of regeneration. He is immune to Psychology, he has Perfect Vigor, and he has a whopping 100 base Leadership with 110 Armor and Silver Shield. A very hard target to break down, even with the other forces of Chaos. And of course, for the Greenskins and the Exalted Hero, actually, it doesn't look like he does have Fear and Terror, but the Exalted Hero does have an item that gives him fire damage, and that's often kind of useful against Greenskins, especially if there is Trolls. Now, for the rest, we do have some Chaos Spawn as well. We also have a Chaos Giant going to be thrown into the mix with a Hell Cannon, and some Dragon Ogres as well. So some heavy hitters on the field for sure. The Dragon Ogres going to be able to protect this Hell Cannon, and we'll see if the Greenskins even have anything that can deal with this Hell Cannon, because the Hell Cannon might be able to just free to fire, and the Chaos Giant as well. Can have a lot of very big targets with a lot of HP. Thing's got 100 base Leadership as well. Low armor, but very high weapon strength. So unless there's a ton of like skirmish cav, it should be able to withstand fairly decently. And we do have a Goblin Wolf Rider Archers on the flank. We also have some Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, the Morgul's Mangy Marauders, which should be armor piercing, and they are. And then some more Forest Goblins, so lots of poison on that field. Now, the rest of the forces, we have some goblins mixed in. We have orc boys, more goblins, and just a bunch of orcs and goblins for that front line. We do have some night goblins. These are the 8-peak loonies with their fanatics. They are unbreakable. We have the orc biguns in the back, and they have a giant of their own. So we're going to be seeing a little giant fight today. Both of them, I think, have like identical stat lines. So it's like, so this giant, we have 30, 139, 65, 30. And if we see the other one, 65, yeah, it's the exact same stats on both sides. Both Fear and Terror, so a little bit of a monster mash there. We have a couple of Goblin Big Bosses as well, going to be on their spiders, and they're going to be bringing, they need stabbing as well to help kind of deal with Sigvald. Should be doing all right in that front. And we have Azag the Slaughterer going to be up on Skullmuncha, as he is going to be bringing the Azag's Ard Armor, giving himself 30 armor and melee defense, affects allies in range for 38 seconds. He does have the Fate of Buna, as well as a Spirit Leech, and he has Slaga's Slashes, given a constant plus 10 melee attack and Leadership to all units in range, so it's got to fly over that engagement and do quite well. But there is nothing really to deal with the Hell Cannon other than Spirit Leech. They do have some mobility, but they don't have anything at range that can really snipe that out. So we'll see if that Hell Cannon is able to kind of carry the day for the Chaos Forces. Yes, Caligar Iron Fist, they needs stabbing. So let's see how things go. We have some support for Green One in the chat. Let's see if he's able to pull through. He does need to win this. He is going to want to push a game 3. But there's going to be quite a bit of space for the Greenskins to move up on. So that Hell Cannon is going to have some nice fun firing away. So we'll see if things going to be able to, as the shots start to rain in. Now the Hell Cannon is fairly accurate itself. It does have a nice little bit of tracking, so it is quite hard to dodge it in and of itself. It can even do semi-decent work against flying units, so I think most of it's going to be used at trying to deal with the ground forces. We do have a little bit of a sneaky little trap here in the forest. The Poison Chaos Warhound is going to be pushing back the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers. Now there is no poison on this side, so they're not going to be able to get slowed down, so they should, I believe, so it's 92 to 95, so they will technically catch them, and once they do, they'll get that poison and get that, they'll have that increased slowdown down, while the Exalted Hero going to be chasing after this Azag the Slaughterer as much as he can, though he's going to be getting poisoned, and I don't think he can catch them even as such, because he has 85 speed versus the 110 for Azag, so there's no way he's going to be able to catch him, though he's just pretty much going to be able to screen him out and really force him. If he wants to Spirit Leech things, he's going to have to use Overcast to really get at the targets he wants to get at, and the Hell Cannon's just going to be able to continue firing away, and the Greenskins continuing to just kind of sit back right now for the rest of their forces. I'm not sure if they think that they can kill that Hell Cannon. It is going to get a Spirit Leech overcasted, going to be trying to just kill that Hell Cannon outright. And we'll see if that's going to be enough for Azag to deal with, while the rest of the Force Goblin Spider Riders are going to continue firing away, satisfying that attacking rule by just continuing to fire away, and the Hell Cannon's going to try and pluck away as best they can, and it really doesn't have any super good targets for it. I mean, at this point, the Greenskins, I don't even think, need to necessarily take out the Hell Cannon. They might just be fine with trading fire with those Force Goblin Spider Riders and continuing just to skirmish their way throughout the course of this initial engagement, keep everything else out of range. He definitely, the monsters, like the Chaos Giant, is going to be really helpful here. It's going to, like, especially to deal with the other giant. It's going to be giant on giant, but there's Chaos Spawn. Not a whole lot else that can, deal with. They have low armor, but all these Goblin Wolf Rider archers are being kept at bay by the Chaos Warhounds with poison, and they do have missile resist. I believe it is 15% missile resist on all Warhounds units. We'll do a quick little check to see. I hear another Spirit Leech going off, so it is 15% missile resist. So they will be able to tank the shots from these Force Goblin Spider Riders, and they will win. And actually, no, I think the Force Goblin Spider Riders do win in that melee engagement, though the Warhounds will be able to make sure that doesn't happen, and they are going to start slowly advancing now. I'm seeing that their shots really isn't doing a whole lot of good work. Another Spirit Leech did go down on it, trying to deal with that unit as quickly as they can. And the Exalted Hero itself is going to be continuing to try and screen out Azag as best that he can. He probably can just continue to force him away as much as he can, but with that increased speed, he doesn't want to go too far ahead, because then Azag will just cycle right around and get a nice little bit of Spirit Legion onto that Hell Cannon. They don't have any other anti-air units, so Azag's pretty safe right now with that speed advantage, and all of the rest of the units just continue firing away at these Chaos Warhounds, slowly plunking away at their units, though it is going to be a very slow ordeal indeed. Now, Hell Cannon, I believe, is starting to get closer and closer to be in range of the rest of the forces, as the Greenskins now do see that Hell Cannon is in range of the rest of their units, the much more grouped up and tightly packed units, as we do have the Mortarchs Major Marauders still sitting pretty healthy themselves. Definitely needing to be a little bit more conservative, I think, with their ammunition. They can't just afford to waste all of their shots into the Chaos Warhounds. I know they're trying to deal with that Hell Cannon, but by using all these shots, you're losing more and more of your counters to, like, the Chaos Spawn, for instance, for the Chaos Giant, and even the Dragon Ogres. It's a lot of HP to deal with on all those units, and if you're using it all on that Hell Cannon, and as I would say before, the Exalted Hero overchased just a bit, allowing Azag to get nice and close, not needing to overcast that one, and might be getting very, very close to getting that Hell Cannon out of operation once and for all, as the Greenskins, though, continuing to try and push the edge of that range on the Hell Cannon, but the Hell Cannon now firing away. It does have a few it has the boom, and it does have the blood, so getting a nice little bit of acceleration speed. It's not really all that important, but the base weapon damage, base explosives, all that good stuff, going to be doing a lot more damage on those shots, as the Warhounds continue to push back all of these Goblin Wolf Rider archers. So well played so far on Leopard's side with dealing with all of these Goblin Wolf Rider archers. Hasn't been too aggressive with his Warhounds, and he's really wasting a lot of the ammunition on all these units. They're getting very low indeed, and the shots continuing to rain, and it isn't just on the Goblins. I think these Orc Boys or even the Orc Biggins would be much nicer targets for that Hell Cannon, and it is just on the edge of range, so I think the Orc Boys would be a much better shot than those Goblins, but it might be able to break more and more of those Goblins as time does go on. Balance Power still says it is dead even, but yeah, losing all there's more and more ammo that is expended is going to be losing tools necessary for all these for the Greenskins to deal with the Chaos Spawn is kind of the biggest thing I think at this point. But now one of the Warhounds has actually routed, though I don't think they'll have anything to necessarily be able to chase them off. They might be able to use one of these Force Goblin Spider Riders is going to try and pursue, but that Exalted Hero I think is going to be trying to keep things away, especially with the advancing Chaos Army. The Marauder should be able to keep things at bay, and the Hell Cannon still firing away. All of that Spirit Leech may be wasted Winds of Magic if this Hell Cannon is able to just continue firing in, and that Spirit Leech I think is now going to be changing towards that Exalted Hero instead, dealing with that. But now the Chaos Warhounds are going to be jumping on these Force Goblin Spider Riders, but the Force Goblin Spider Riders, with how low they are, should be beaten by those Warhounds, as they are going to be wavering right here. But more shots going to be arcing its way up towards that Exalted Hero. Both sides taking a bit of an enfeebling foe. Did go down on Azag, trying to keep that Exalted Hero nice and healthy. And the last few shots of that Hell Cannon are arcing its way in, and now Chaos going to be advancing on the front lines of the Greenskins. We'll see just how these front lines do handle each other. The Orc Boys should be able to handle those Chaos Warriors or the Marauders with no problem. The big question is going to be the Spawn, the Giant, and these Dragon Ogres. Are they going to be able to chunk through all that? And of course there is Sigvald himself, which has a ton of armor, silver shield, so all these shots going his way. Not really a very good use of that ammunition. And also he does have that regen as well, which is going to be very hard to deal with. Both of these Goblin Big Bosses, I'm going to need to get some nice hits off on him, but there's a little pendulum going down right on through those Orc Boys, doing some decent amount of damage, but not a whole lot. And the Chaos Bond should be able to rout these Goblins very quickly on. They haven't engaged yet. I mean, there is Goblins with spears, but still not going to be doing a whole lot. Though, yeah, both of the Goblin Big Bosses have gotten on top of Sigvald, and he is taking a decent amount of damage, and the Giant is here as well. And Sigvald is quickly learning he does not want to be anywhere near that Giant, and the other Chaos Giant going to be coming in to contend it. So we have Greenskin Giant versus Chaos Giant, as they're going to be hitting each other, and Azag also swooping in here. So all of these units right now, they're definitely going to be favoring the Greenskins on this engagement. And the Azag the Slaughterer does have his Ard's armor, so plus 30 armor, melee defense. Going to be doing a lot of good work, but in come the Dragon Ogres, and here is the Chaos Bond coming into the rescue as well. And if they can pin in Azag right here, Azag may very quickly go down. He is very squishy, despite being on a Wyvern, and the Wah does go off, giving immune to Psychology, a nice little bit of melee attack as well, but Azag just wants to get out of this engagement right now. He does not want to be stuck in with all of that Spawn and the Dragon Ogres, and he does pull out, but he took a ton of damage in that approach, and balance power is slightly in the Chaos favor right now. Orc Biggun's taking damage, and the mobility for the Chaos is being able to chase off a lot of those units, and the Greenskin formation is getting a lot more narrow right now, though Sigvald himself has taken quite a bit of damage, and he does need to kind of pull out, avoid these Goblin Big Bosses if he can, and probably much stay close to those Dragon Ogres. Keep those Dragon Ogres as his bodyguard and wait for his regen to kind of top him off a bit more. Though Azag is going to be looking for some easier prey right now, though these Goblin Big Bosses coming on in for the kill. Once again, going to be charging in with their spiders, but Sigvald does kind of get mixed in with his own units, though these Orc Bigguns should be able to break down those Chaos Marauders fairly easily. But with this rear charge of the Chaos Warhounds with poison, and these Chaos Bomb, the Chaos Bomb taking a bit of damage themselves, and the Goblin Big Boss with Azag should be able to handle Prince Sigvald, and Prince Sigvald has gotten away from his own monster support, while the Giant for the Greenskins has taken a lot of damage. It's not going to like outright lose the game if Sigvald does go down here, but it certainly isn't going to help, and it's definitely something that the Greenskins want to be able to do, because if they can't handle him now, it's going to be a bit hard for them to deal with him in the late game. So Sigvald does actually end up routing here. He does still have They Need Stabbing on, but those Dragon Ogres coming in trying to deal with Azag, and Azag himself is getting quite low. And so with Azag as low as he is, that Chaos, the Greenskin Giant being very low, these Goblin Big Bosses are good for dealing with Sigvald, and they actually probably do fairly well against the Giant as well. But with that Exalted Hero still up, Sigvald does finally drop, but as balance power goes a little bit back towards the center, but is still in the Chaos's favor at this point, and Azag's going to be running now from that Exalted Hero. Exalted Hero going to be retreating back into his own lines, and the Dragon Ogres themselves have started taking a little bit of a beat down here. I think those was it the Goblin Big Bosses here that did that much damage, but they're going to be turning their attention to try and finish off this Giant here. There isn't a whole lot left for the infantry on the Chaos side. It's really going to be the monsters, as the Exalted Hero is getting beaten down by these Goblin Big Bosses. Balance of power is now going in the Greenskins' favor, as all the big targets, the Dragon Ogres, the Exalted Heroes, are all getting routed off the field, and the Goblin Big Bosses should be able to make sure they are escorted off. The Exalted Hero might be able to take to the sky and escape, but Azag himself is in hot pursuit, should be able to make sure that those stay offline, and with the caster as well getting routed off, having all these units route for the Chaos is probably going to be their downfall. Balance power is actually shifting more and more into the Greenskins' favor. I did not necessarily expect that with how that initial engagement was going. I thought the Chaos had this more or less wrapped up, but both of these Goblin Big Bosses are doing so well, just nipping at the heels of all these big units and doing a ton of damage in that regard, and that is going to be our game, and Greenskins, they come back to win it, and is going to even up the series at 1 apiece. Very well played indeed. All right, so let's take a look at the after-battle report. These Goblin Big Bosses actually not getting as much value as I would initially thought. I thought they were doing more of that damage, but the Giant doing some decent work. So where is all of this damage being found? These Orc Bacons did quite well, 1100. Otherwise, Azag did okay. Now I'm trying to think of where those all that damage came from. Nothing here did too outrageously good or anything like that. I really was kind of expecting both of these goblins to be well over 1,000, but somehow everything did get routed off. I mean, they did rout off with fairly decent health left. Sigvald, everything else didn't really do a whole lot of good. Chaos Giant, Spawn, and the Hell Cannon. I think the shots from the Hell Cannon, too many shots were wasted early on trying to deal with it. Though on the flip side, a lot of shots were wasted on the Greenskin sides trying to deal with all the skirmish, or not really skirmish, the mobility of the Chaos forces. So maybe a bit of value wasted on both fronts there, but a good comeback by the Greenskins, able to kind of come back and finish things off on that department. Let's go switch on over, as we should be in for our last fight for this series. Yeah, Goblin Big Bosses did quite well dealing with Sigvald, but still, yeah, quite a good comeback by the Greenskin sides indeed. So now we are on our last match of the series. Both games so far going to our rubber match. Yeah, the problem is with Chaos, the Marauders against like any of the Orc infantry, they're just really not going to have enough damage output to really deal with things there. But otherwise, yes, let's see what we've got for our picks 3. We don't have anything set up just yet, so we'll actually keep that up so I can update game 2. So Leopard went with Chaos. Against the Greenskins. And he banned... Oh, I showed up everything, so it was Counts and Coast. And... Coast. There we go. Oh, it didn't show up. Why didn't it show up? There it is. So green one still thinking about his picks for the picks 3. Yeah, it definitely was an interesting counter pick. It almost paid off. It looked like it was going very well for quite a long period of time, but then as soon as Sigvald just got surrounded, he needed to stay with his Dragon Ogres. Because when he got separated, both of the Goblin Big Bosses were just able to peel off and once again just jump on him. And then when he was away from his Dragon Ogres, his Spawn, his Giant, Azag didn't really have to worry too much, even though he was low on health. So still very well played on the greenskin side, able to come back on that one. So green one, the only things he cannot ban is going to be counts and coast. And he can't go greenskins or dark elves, but otherwise he has free reign for any other picks and bans. All right. Okay, so green one's going to be going with Beastmen, Norska, and Bretonia, and you already banned counts, so I have... So he wanted to ban counts, but he banned that the last one. So he wanted to ban counts and he wanted to ban coast, so he just really doesn't like to play against those factions. So he's going to go with Dowie instead. So yeah, Beastmen. Beastmen, Norska, and it was Bretonia. So eventually he did get banned. He's still going to be going with those three factions, but kind of lends a little bit of an insight. I was like, okay, counts are good, coast is good against those factions that if Leopard does want to go with any of those. So we have Norska, Bretonia, and Beastmen. And he was banning Dowie. So for the counters, the Leopard gets to ban one of those three, and then he gets to... So he's banning Bretonia. So we'll pull Bretonia off the pick. And instead, so we have either Norska or Beastmen. So counts can work well against them. We'll see how this ends up going for him. It kind of depends on which factions Leopard does favor. Glad to see everyone joining the stream, up to 48 on the video. So hopefully everyone's enjoying the game so far. We have our final after this game. It is going to be Owie Dowie facing the winner of this match. And that will be a best of 5. So he's going to be going Wood Elves. So his counter going to be Wood Elves. A very strong pick indeed. Got to imagine... Oh, okay, well, I guess I would not be going with that. But the green one is going to be going with Norska here. Norska against Wood Elves. Definitely a matchup I try to avoid right now. There is just such a polarizing play style for the Wood Elves. They can go very strong kite. They can go something in between with like Dryads, Deepwood Scouts, something of that nature. Or they can just go real pain in the ass and just go with a tree box. They can just bring a bunch of treekin, archers, or the Hawk Riders. They can bring Durthu, Ariel, all units very hard. Especially Durthu is kind of hard for the Norskins to deal with. Even if they do have javelins, he can still tank that fairly well, and especially if he has any heals, it's going to make that even harder to deal with. So we'll see what Leopard is going to go with. But I definitely think Leopard has the advantage, at least for the faction matchups. Though Norska can win, it is going to be a very uphill battle for them, I believe. Yeah, I got to I think like the biggest factor in what makes a faction the strongest is, I mean, there's some exceptions to this, but mostly it's how, like, the diversity of their play. How many different options do they have, and as long as they're good options, it makes it very hard to build against them if they can build so many different styles against you. Like with Skaven, their new strength is in their speed that they can bring. Yes, balance, except when factions don't have that much diversity, such as Norska. Norska, it's like you're pretty much expecting certain styles of play. You can bring. There's different ways you can bring it, but for the most part, I mean, you're still going to have Marauders. You don't really have that much diversity in Lord pools. You have Throg, Wulfric. That's pretty much it, because their generic Chieftain Lord is pretty much just discount Wulfric. Everything else is pretty much the same shtick. Well, the problem with the wind spells of Norska is they were really, like, Norska was very good because of all, like, they were able to deal with infantry exceptionally quickly with what they had. Like, Pendulum did a ton of damage very quickly. It was you could go with archers against the front line, whatever. Wulfric's Sea Fang did very well as well, but both of those two spells got a nerf. The Sea Fang, I don't think that's really too big of an issue, that the nerf that they got. It's still a very long spell. It's hard to see still, so it can still do some good damage, but losing how much damage Pendulum had does hurt Norska quite a bit, with it being able to deal with boxes. And the thing is, even with that, the tree box that the Wood Elves can do didn't really care about Pendulums anyways. Yes, the Eternal Guard was there, but that can take a lot of damage from it, but Treekin don't really care about wind spells too much. Yep, Burning Head still does good work. Again, with the Firebark Elders, they can still... that gives, I want to say 25% fire resistance. But it is, yeah, it's still a good tool to help deal with that. The problem with that is Wood Elves are also very good at sniping out Lords and Heroes. So I will pretty much always bring at least 2 casters against Wood Elves, just so I have some magic to deal with things. Usually bring Death and Fire. Yeah, definitely before the DLC, Norska was probably considered favored against the Wood Elves. But yeah, definitely with the recent additions, it definitely makes it a lot harder to prepare against them. It's like you have to bring fire damage, or not fire, you have to bring magic damage in case there is the Great Stag Knights. You have to deal with large targets, so you can bring javelins, but javelins are easily countered by Deepwood Scouts, in my experience. You have to have enough of them to deal with, like, Durthu, for example, because 2 of them can do a lot of damage to him, but it's like, if they take enough damage, it's pretty hard to deal with it. Though having the Treekin with their get a little buff sure doesn't help the old meta builds either. But just because a lot of the meta builds don't use DLC units, the fact that they still exist makes it a lot harder, because, like, the Sisters of Twilight is a good example of that. Before, like, okay, they can still bring Hawk Riders and stuff, but you still need to... It was doable to deal with them. And then... But now with, like, this, having to prepare for the Sisters of Twilight and Durthu and Ariel, and just the diversity of play, I think it's putting a strain on Norska, but it's possible, but not easy. Definitely not easy. Yeah, this is probably, as Norska, Wood Elves is my least favorite matchup by a long shot. But now we are getting into the game. Both sides have loaded in, so let's switch on over to that screen. This is our third match of the series, as we have Awi Dawi waiting on the outcome of this one. Ripperoni, Norscaroni. Well, as a Norska main, I hope not. We'll see what the green one has brought to deal with this Wood Elf army. It's definitely not... I'd say it's a bit of a middle ground build from the Wood Elves. So, for the Wood Elf army, we have a bit, actually quite a bit of mobility here. We also have some War Dancers, a couple of Dryads, some Eternal Guards. For the Lord, we do have the Sisters of Twilight. That's kind of why I was mentioning them a little bit before, is you do have to worry about them, and they are going to be bringing just the Gwendolyr's Vantage, which is default with the Eagle. You get a different one for the Dragon, but just going to be bringing that. We're not going to be seeing the Conjoined Destiny, so they just have their split shots. We do have a Branch Wraith, going to be bringing Earthblood, and I believe that is Pendulum, or Earth-Feebling Foe, no, Pendulum. So Earthblood and Pendulum, and then mobility, we do have some Glade Riders with Spears, some nice cheap 550 Cavalry, and we have the Lost Sylvan Knights, which cost 2k. They are ethereal, so they do have a whopping 75% missile resist, fear, terror, massive, nice, good speed. We also do have the Zotes as well. Not a pick you will often see. Well, it's still going to be quite useful. You just usually don't see them against Norska, as they do have the Flesh to Stone and a Bound Earthblood as well. So lots of healing, a couple of Glade Riders with Hagbane tips. And as for the Norskan side of things, we have a front line of Marauders. For the most part, it's going to be Marauders. We actually have some Marauder Spearmen as well, a unit you don't often see. Not having shields can be a bit of an issue. Yes, they are Spearmen, but they're pretty much for anti-large. Norska usually just relies on Javelins. We do have a Fimir Balefiend of Shadows. Going to be bringing, it's from the Mist, gets a nice little 22% missile resist. We have Enfeebling Foe and Occam's Mindrazor as well, which imbues magic damage. So this is how they're going to be dealing with the Great Sylvan Knights. So instead of bringing a Deathcaster, they're going to be bringing Occam's Mindrazor to give that magic damage to anything it wants. And we do have Throg as well, who is armor piercing, bonus versus large, so giving him that magic damage against the Sylvan Knights. He'll do quite a bit of good damage, or even to the Spearmen. Or the Skin Wolves themselves will make some decent work there, as we have the Maws of Savagery, as we also have some armored Skin Wolves as well. And the armored Skin Wolves are a nice little pick here, because they do trade a lot better into Wild Riders if they are, and we do have triple Marauder Horsemen for the skirmish potential on top of things. And we do have a couple of Horse Masters as well on the far flank, so lots of mobility. So both sides are going to be advancing the horsemen. Norskan skirmish overall, I would say, has a bit of the advantage, as long as these horse masters and the rest of the horsemen are able to consolidate their focus on those Hagbane tips, because once they are dealt with, they should be able to do pretty decent. And then the rest of it, so we have the Glade Riders going to be keeping away from these horsemen, not able, because their speed's 94, 90 on the horsemen, so technically they can catch them. It's just going to be a little bit of a time to do it. So the Sisters, actually forgetting the Branch Wraith off into the corner. Unfortunate for Leopard there, but he's going to figure that out eventually when he looks to cast a spell and he realizes he is not anywhere close to be doing that. But the Sisters of the Twilight should have they don't have to worry too much about what the Norska has. They don't have anything that can really punish the air here. They can, I'm sure, put a nice bit of poke damage into the Sisters of Twilight, but the Horse Masters themselves won't be able to just like completely burst them down, unlike Javelins will. Yeah, the horsemen and horse masters should be left to the Glade Riders. The shots from the Sister Twilight definitely need to be used on the heroes and the Lord for Norska, and they're just kind of swooping in, trying to get some poke damage onto them. Shots going to be coming up in, doing a little bit of damage to the Sisters of Twilight, but overall the horsemen and horse masters have taken their fair share of shots from these Glade Riders, getting pretty low themselves, and now the unit's going to be charging up the hill for the Wood Elves here. Zotes getting a nice little charge into the Marauders. as we do have some shots going to be raining in from those sisters. I believe they are going to be targeting the Fimir Balefine, as they are doing some nice bit of damage there. Now, of course, he does have that nice little bit of missile resist with that from the mist, but we do see some of the horsemen starting to get pushed back, but the Skin Wolves jumping down on top of the Zotes, doing some pretty good work, as they do have Fight or Die, giving melee attack leadership, and the Zotes do have Flesh to Stone, though, giving themselves plus 60 armor, and the War Dancers are getting beat down themselves fairly well, but the shots going to be continue to rain in from those Glade Riders, trying to deal with those Skin Wolves, and they are armored, but I mean, that is 70 armor, it's nothing too ridiculous. And now here is that collapse in the rear as the Sylvan Knights do get on top of things. It looks like we do have these Maws of Savagery are going to be getting that Okram's Mindrazor by the looks of things, so giving themselves magic damage, armor piercing, base weapon damage, and the Sylvan Knights seeing that, quickly pulling out of that engagement. Don't want to be anywhere near that, while the Sisters continuing to fire their shots into the Fimir Balefine, but aren't really doing a whole lot of quick damage. It's going to be kind of slow over the course of the fight, and that's going to allow that Fimir Balefine to get its value in. But that front line is kind of breaking a bit for the Norskins, as the Marauders and the Skin Wolves do get broken in the center ranks, and now the Glade Riders are going to be able to trade very effectively one-on-one with the Horsemen. Horsemen only do have 15 armor, so do the Glade Riders, but yeah, these Marauder Horsemen going to be taking the rough end of the stick on that one. In comes Throg, looking to deal with some of these Lost Sylvan Knights. As he does kind of charge in, look like he's just going to be going for those War Dancers. And we do have the Enfeebling Foe is going to be going down on the Lost Sylvan Knights, giving themselves minus 24 melee attack and melee defense. But yeah, the Wood Elves are slowly pushing forward, and here comes that Branch Wraith. Better late than never. Definitely tried to cast a spell and was like, oh crap, I'm too far away from the rest. Josama, nice to have you on the stream. Have a good night yourself. And yeah, the rest of the Norskin forces, though, it is definitely not out of the fight for them. Their front line is definitely breaking a bit, but they still have some very decent mobility. The Skin Wolves have been able to get returned, and they do have regen. And the Sisters of Twilight trying to deal with them, as the Skin Wolves do kind of turn and fire, try and engage against him. But she should be able to pull, or the Sisters should be able to pull out nice and easy. And yeah, the Maws of Savagery once again getting that Okram's Mindrazor, and this time they are still staying in engagement with those Lost Sylvan Knights, and this is exactly how they want to be engaging, sticking. As long as they have that magic damage, these Sylvan Knights should have very quickly pulled out, seeing all of that magic damage, because they are going to be doing a lot of damage, even though these Maws of Savagery are taking a bunch of damage, and the Sisters still have a ton of ammunition left, and there is still plenty of mobility left for the Wood Elves here, as they are slowly pushing up the field. Branch Wraith is in the fight, finally here, able to get a little bit of healing, and those Pendulums going to be doing some good work as well. But the Horsemen and Horse Masters still alive and kicking in the rear, even though they are fairly depleted. But the Lost Sylvan Knights going to be getting an Earthblood, though they have taken a ton of damage. They did get the Flesh to Stone as well, giving themselves plus 60 armor. But a lot of damage from those Skin Wolves, or the Maws of Savagery, with that Okram's Mindrazor on. So a very nice pick there. And Norska able to kind of start pulling through here. They are ahead in that balance of power ever so slightly. Throg, though, is at full health, and he is going to be a very good answer to the Zotes. And with the how many Skin Wolves are still left and kicking, there isn't quite enough left for the Wood Elves. They still have the mobility. The Sisters are still doing all right themselves, and of course we still have the Branch Wraith back in the fight. Actually, is the Sisters, speaking of which, I might have missed something rather important. I do not see the Sisters on the field at all. Was looking at something else, and the Sisters are gone. So actually at this point there's not a whole lot left for the Wood Elves to... I thought, well, they still had a ton of ammunition left, but now at this point the Sylvan Knights do have some healing from the Branch Wraith. But there's just, with the Okram's Mindrazor on the Fimir Balefine, as here it comes once again on the Maws of Savagery, they are going to be getting that magic damage imbued, and there it is, and that should be enough to, might be enough to even just finish off the Lost Sylvan Knights here and now, and Norska pulling through bit by bit. This was definitely I would say a nicer Wood Elf build than what Wood Elves can be bringing. Yes, apparently you guys definitely saw where Throg finished off the Sisters of Twilight. For some reason I completely missed out on that one, but yeah, the Sylvan Knights now getting very, very low and I do believe they are good. They are broken right now. Only a couple of models left, not enough to be able to carry the day, and at this point, Throg can probably hard carry with what is left. The Glade Riders aren't going to be able to finish him off, especially considering he has regen. All of the Skin Wolves have regen as well. Marauder Horsemen chasing off the Zotes in the rear. And yeah, at this point, Throg, I don't think there's anything left that can bring him down. And even though the Fimir Balefiend does get routed off here, Throg is just going to have too much, as he does pop his Wintertooth Crown as well, giving himself a nice little unbreakable core here. He's trying to save that Fimir Balefiend of Shadows, so it's going to be a little too late to save that one, though Throg should be able to handle this Branch Wraith fairly easily. Horsemaster is using up the last of their ammunition, and they are going to be collapsing upon this formation just a little bit. I mean, the Dryads are still going to be in here. They do have magic damage, able to punch through the Skin Wolves' innate physical resistance. But yeah, balance power is just too far gone at this point. Throg just has way too much HP left, and there is just no hope in being able to break him, even surrounded by Eternal Guard. Branch Wraith sure isn't going to be able to put the hurt on Throg at all, and that is going to be our match. Yeah, well, at this point, army losses should be on the very fringe of break-in, especially with the Fimir Balefiend coming back. And there is army losses, and Norska does take it, green 1, winning the series, coming back from being down 1-0, and does secure his spot in the final against Awi Dawi. Yeah, the Wood Elf build, I wonder if, like, with Leopard, it was like trying to go with something that was like a middle of the ground build, middle of the road build, which is kind of what it was. But at the same time, it just wasn't able to really excel in any certain front or another. Like Eternal Guards were able to just get plucked away by the Horsemen, Horsemaster did quite well. Maws of Savagery getting 2,200 in value, getting that Okram's Mind Razor on them, and everything else just did quite well. I mean, the front line broke pretty quickly for Norska, but Throg only getting 900 in value, which wasn't quite able, though, to finish the job here. Not having that Branch Wraith earlier on definitely hurt, but I don't think that caused the a throw in one way or the other. Lost Silva Knights themselves not quite even paying for themselves either, but a very good match regardless. Norska was able to claw their way to a victory, and that is going to be GG. So we'll pull in Awi Dawi, so the bracket, update that. Green 1 does advance to the final here. Okay, so the host has left, so I'm just going to host the next one, and I will invite both of our contenders. So ping Awi Dawi. Yeah, the sisters were slowly taking out the Fimir Balefiend, though the Fimir Balefiend did have the From the Mist, so it had a bit of missile resist on top of it, but yeah, it still had a ton of ammunition left. Alright, so send an invite to both of our contenders. Let's see. Should have them both. There's one. And where is... There he is. Invite sent to both. Alright, so clear the results from the last stuff. Update scores. Lovely YouTube emotes, as always. All right, so we have the green one in the lobby now. So he will be on the left. And on the right. And Alidawi has joined in. There we are. All right, so for the brackets, we have the green one on top. All right, and now since it is a best of 5, it is pick and ban 1. There we go. All right, so now we are at the finals. Everything looks good. So, a little switch that over to this screen. So this is our final qualifier for the Rise of the Mortarchs. We should be having the final sometime relatively soon. We'll see what works for all of our contestants' schedules. So for the final, we'll be seeing Prussian Prince, Ice Power Total War. We have Evan Star, and then for the winner of the green one and Awi Dawi will take the 4th spot in that final. Awi Dawi is Lacrity has said that he is a good ladder player, so just getting into the tournament scene, but not a stranger to the multiplayer scene. So for this map, we do have Plains of the Dead for the first one, so I'm in command of that. All right, and then switch on over to this as we'll get our picks and bans. Yeah, picks best of 5 is a little harder when you're only being able to ban 1. Kind of opens the door to a lot more counters. So you have to be a little bit more conservative with your first pick factions, because a lot of factions, if you ban 2, you generally have a good idea. Yeah, in at least in the first game, that was a Dark Elf versus Empire, and Leopard definitely had much better micro in the mobility department. He was very on point with his nets and his cav play, and was able to really break down the Dark Elf forces in that match. But yeah, definitely in the second and third matches, the green one definitely kind of pulled through and played a lot better for sure. Hey, Hipposcotamus, welcome to the stream just in time for the finals. So yeah, so we have EC, the green one, and Awi Dawi. So we have, for the first one, we have Greenskins banning counts, and Awi Dawi goes with Lizardman and instantly readies up. So he has a build in mind for sure. Oops. There we go, picks. And his ban was counts. And the counter is Lizardman. So should be a nice fun match here. All right. So, well, I mean, Aoi has definitely had quite a bit of time in Warhammer. I don't recognize any of his old names, but his Steam account definitely doesn't recognize any other names from that. And yeah, I was saying that he is a ladder player, recently turned into the tournament playing style. Most likely drawn in from the Warhammer World Championship, which is going to be opening up in just about a week now for the registration. That opens up February 1st. So that has gotten a lot of new people into the, I guess, the Discord multiplayer theme, where all the tournaments and stuff like that. We still had people who are playing in ladder and stuff. But definitely getting some new players and some pretty good ones at that into the scene. Okay, let's update this as well. And counts. And picked lizards. All right. So green one is ready as well, so let's roll on in to our first match. All right. Match one of the finals. Switch on over to the main screen. Fix the scoreboard. There we go. All right, so for the Greenskins being led by the green one, we do have Grom the Paunch going to be leading those forces there. He is going to be bringing Language of the Boys, as well as the Great Un is here, and Lucky Banner as well, giving himself a nice little bit of damage resist and melee attack. We have an Orc Shaman as well, going to be bringing Brain Bursta as his spell, as well as Scroll of Shielding. For the rest of the forces, there's going to be some goblins mixed in with some orc boys. I saw some black orcs in there as well. So yeah, black orcs, orc biggins for that front line, more orc boys, and then some few goblins for some chaff units. For some archers, we do have some night goblin archers, orc arrow boy, savage orc arrow archers, and the rusty arrows with their armor sundering. We do have the Force Goblin Spider Riders, a couple of those. We have a couple of Squigs as on top of that, and we have the Teeth Robbers, Goblin Wolf Chariots ROR, which do have a bonus versus infantry on their weapon strength, and then they have a 105 missile strength firing projectile as well. And that is going to be the army for the Greenskins. Now let's swing on over to what the Lizardmen have brought. So the Lizardmen are going to be bringing some Skink Skirmishers in that front, giving a little bit of nice bit of poison into the fight. And we have the Star Chamber Guardians, Temple Guard ROR. We have some Saurus Warriors, Skink Cohort, and some more Skinks in the rear. Going to wrap all that up. We do have a Skink Chief, and we have a Skink Priest of Beasts as well, and one of these is the Lord. We have Nakai the Wanderer. That is who we are going to be seeing today. We usually don't see him. He is hiding inside of the Skink Chief of Beasts on top of the Engine of the Gods. So we'll be seeing an Engine of the Gods for that. Nakai is going to be bringing, I believe he has his ability that gives Perfect Vigor. Primal, actually he does not, so he has Primal Vor. Oh no, that's what this one is. So he has the Golden Tribute, which is Perfect Vigor in all units around him. So keeping him with that Star Chamber Guardian, going to be very nice, keeping them nice and healthy, or nice and fresh. We also do have double Bastiladons with Revivification Crystal. They do have a bit of poison themselves on them. Otherwise, that's going to be the army. A little, actually quite a bit different than what you normally expect to see as the Lizardmen. Normally, the Greenskins do struggle a bit when it comes with lots of large targets. So you'll often see like Mazda Mundi on Slack. You'll see some of the other large units as well for the Lizardmen. Or you'll see the Lizardmen go like full kite as well with like bringing Salamander hunting packs and the like. But the Teeth Robbers coming in, pushing back the Skink Skirmishers, and are going to be pulling out before the Skink Priest of Beast is going to be jumping up on top of that. As they do have, well, right now they have 70 speed because they are poisoned, but it is still more speed than any of the rest of the forces here, so they're not going to be able to really catch down those Teeth Robbers, so they should be able to kind of go in and out here doing some decent work. But the Greenskins going to be slowly advancing. Nakai, we're going to see how well he does. Definitely an odd pick, of course, but he should be good fun nonetheless. And the Teeth Robbers continuing to wreak a little bit of havoc into that backline. It is just going to be skinks in the back, so there's nothing that can really keep it down. The only thing that it really needs to avoid is the Star Chamber Guardians, and a Brain Burster going to be going down right in the middle of them. They do take a little bit of damage, but not a whole lot. And now Nakai the Wanderer is actually pretty far forward right now, and there is a lot of archers that can go his way. He has Savage Orc Arrow Boys, we have the Orc Arrow Boys, and there's of course the Rusty Arrows, which reduce the armor of Nakai if they are able to hit him. And now that the Star Chamber Guardians are going to be coming on in to assist, especially Ground the Punch needs to be a little bit careful there, doesn't want to be caught up in that mess. Well, Malverde, I definitely haven't played Lizardmen into Greenskins. Usually just don't see Nakai like pretty much ever, but definitely I can see his usefulness because he is a armor-piercing lord with some pretty good animations as well as some decent mass. But Grom the Paunch is going to be just kind of cycling away, for the most part going to be staying away from the Bastillodons, and the Bastillodons and Nakai all going to be staying nice and tight with that Star Chamber Guardian, everything getting perfect vigor in that mess. But they do need to be a little careful because having everything in one spot here is going to allow the Greenskins to pretty much fight anything but that. So having everything in one spot that is pretty much your best units, you're just going to allow Grom the Paunch to kind of cycle through the rest of your formation. That Skink Chief is going to be a little in a bit of a pickle right now, actually taking a bit of damage. He is only 350, but he can get a ton of value off regardless. And right now, Greenskins pretty much able to kind of set up and have a very good lay of the land. And are those the... No, those are just the Saurus Warriors. I was like, that is too early for the Star Chamber Guardians to be getting taken out so quickly. But still, it is Saurus Warriors. They are fairly decent, probably expensive infantry to be taken out so quickly. The Wa does go off as some of these units are engaged in the backline, and the backline of the Lizardmen is getting pretty much destroyed very, very quickly. All the Skinks just getting shattered left, right, and center, and everything is now going to be focusing on this center blob of single entities. It is 2 Revivification Crystals. They have poison. They do have the Skink Priest of Beast, who does have... It is on the Engine of the Gods, so it could potentially get a nice little cast there. Another Brain Burster right into the middle of the Star Chamber Guardian, and might as well use it on them. It is probably the best target to be using, especially now is the only infantry left, as now the Greenskins just going to be able to slowly kite away, chase everything down. All of these squigs are not... Yeah, there is squigs. Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, all of the Forest Goblin Spider Riders just going to be able to peel everything off. And I'm pretty sure the Greenskins have this one at this point. Balance power is slightly in the Greenskin favored, but the lack of pretty much control at this point for the Lizardmen is going to be their biggest fault, because they're slow. They can't really force any engagement, though they did get on top of the Rusty Arrows, which is actually probably the best unit to deal with right now that they can effectively catch. They would like to deal with the Orc Shaman and, of course, Ground the Punch, but eliminating the armor sundering of the Rusty Arrows is going to make it just that little bit harder for the Greenskins to deal with all of the super large targets. Though at this point, Nakai and, I mean, I guess the Skink Priest is going to be probably the biggest melee combatants, and here is going to go that Engine of the Gods is going to be firing its way right down these Black Orcs, and it is going to go right on through them. They do pull out a little bit, but they still took some damage, and down comes the laser. and it does peel off a few units, and it's actually getting them close to wavering right now, losing decisively in this engagement. It was a rather expensive unit to be using. At this point, Greenskins probably would be best off keeping them in reserve, just kind of throwing in some of the chaff units and allowing all of their units to kind of slowly fire away, cycle in with the Night Goblin, Squig Hoppers, and even Grom, and slowly whittle things down, especially the Star Chamber Guardian. Once they get dealt with, they do have Hands Impenetrable Pelt, giving themselves plus 22 physical resist and speed, Revivification Crystal as well, trying to keep themselves nice and healthy. But they are rampaged right now, as are a few other units, but that isn't too much of a worry for the Lizardman army. Now it's just kind of going to be a long, drawn-out fight here, as all the archers just going to be teeing up and firing away. The Rusty Arrows are back in the fight, going to be firing in, and just the cycling of the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers at this point. I see there are a few units left for the Lizardmen off in the flanks here. Got some skink cohorts, but otherwise everything else is just right here in the center is all that they've got left. The Skink Priest of Beast taking a ton of fire itself, as a very large target, and is pretty much a just a sponge right now for arrows, as the Rusty Arrows do kind of pull out just out of range to keep things nice and tight for the Greenskins. Grom going to be cycling in, getting some damage. He does have Scroll of Shielding on him, giving himself a little bit of damage resist. Yeah, I definitely I think the Greenskins definitely have it at this point. They just have to avoid essentially getting caught up in too many, like Flock of Dooms, for example. There is still going to be some more, I think there's one more Engine of the Gods cast that can be brought down, but the Skink Priest of Beast is getting wavered right now and routing, and with all of the stuff that the Greenskins have left, that thing will not be coming back. Taking quite a bit of damage. Now all the archers are going to be focusing down the other units. Ground the Paunch will personally escort off that Skink Priest of Beast. Will not be coming back. The Star Chamber Guardians as well do rout, and that is it for the infantry support of the Lizardmen. And Nakai and the two Basiladon's Revivification Crystals, no amount of healing is going to be able to save this fight at this point. Even though balance of power is still pretty close to even, there is still enough ammunition left on the Rusty Arrows and all the other units, and everything's just getting broken down. Away goes one Revivification Crystal. The other one is very close to routing as well. And it is now down just to Nakai, and the Black Orcs should be able to whittle things down on his health. And Awidawi, realizing he has lost, went a little too heavy in the blob, not quite enough on the outside fringes, and he did let his backline get really destroyed early on. He got a little too overextended, and all of the Greenskin mobility, the Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, and all of the Forest Goblin Spider Riders just collapsed on all the Skink Skirmishers, just destroyed everything very, very quickly, leaving just the Star Chamber Guardian, the Bastiladon, Nakai, and even the Skink Chief got cut out pretty early on, even though he got the Skink Priest of Beast. It was the Skink Chief got only 169. But yeah, definitely well played by the green one on that one. Able to kind of pull through very effectively there. Take a little look at some of the value on this side. The Rusty Arrows did quite well, and as well as all of the archers, able to do a ton of damage on that front, but very well played by the green one on that one. So now we are up for our second match, and the map for this one is going to be Karak Ungor. All right, next map is set for them. All right. So pick one, ban one for Awidawi. So we'll see how he does for this. So they'll be going Tomb Kings and banning Counts. Banning. Now for that, it does open up. So he'd be going Norska, the green one. So as he's shown in our last series, he's quite good with Norska, and Norska does quite well against the Tomb Kings. He's probably one of my more favored picks against them. So he'll be doing, I think it's definitely a good advantage so far. But otherwise, I mean, Tomb Kings themselves is still a decent pick here. It's not like too egregious one way or the other. There's not a whole lot of super bad matchups for the Tomb King's other potential counters would have been like Chaos. High Elves, for instance, are kind of ones that generally aren't very favorable for the Tomb Kings, but still all of them are fairly doable. We'll update the score as well. Green one takes the first game. This is best of 5, so it is far from done. Yeah, so for this matchup, pretty much going to be I'm guessing a rush from the Norscan side. Skin Wolves are quite good in this particular one. At least a couple, I would say. They do excellent against any of the Nehekran Horsemen. Any of the mobility that the Tomb Kings do have, they will trade very, very well into them. Any of the large targets, especially in the late game, if you have enough Skin Wolves left, they'll be able to do quite well. Yep, yeah, Green one has shown that he is quite proficient with those factions so far. Able to win some very nice... yeah, Adelmo, you know I don't speak Spanish. No hablo español. There, you got some Spanish. Probably no habla or hablo, one of the two. Something like that. Okay. All right, let's see. So we have that. The ban was Counts. So far, no one really liking to play against Counts so far. Yeah, plenty of EC folks around today. We had, I think, at least 3 of them in our bracket. Let's take a quick little look at that. So we had the green one, we had Jimmy, and we had Tu Madre La Sucia, who fought for the semifinal position, and I think that was it. Oh, and Senor Turu-san. So we had 4 people from EC today. So quite a good turnout indeed. Yeah, Malverde, I think I touched on this after or before the last game here, where he's a very active ladder player, and I think this is probably the case with a lot of people where he's new to tournaments, because I think a lot of it is with the new announcement for the Warhammer World Championship that's been spread by a bunch of different YouTubers. Is pulling a lot more of those people who have either been playing in just quick battles and stuff like that, pulling them into the tournament scene, so getting them active on Discord and the like, getting them into some more of the organized play, which is always good to see that community grow. Yeah, we'll see what both sides here come up with. I definitely have a nice little build, because I like bringing Manticores as Norska. Don't know if Green one will be doing that same strategy, especially against characters like Arkan, pretty much, or any of like the cast. Well, I guess the casters are like etc. and stuff, but there's a potential if there's like Necrotex, any of the like a Casket of Souls, for example, is a good target for those guys. It should be a little fun. Yeah, I always agree. The Lisbon build, it had elements to it that worked, but as I think I said before, it was just they got too extended with their main units. Like he tried to keep everything with perfect vigor in one spot, but by doing that, just let the greenskins kill everything else, and yeah, they didn't have enough mobility control to stop that from happening. So anyways, both sides ready to go. So let's roll on in to our second match. All right, switch on over the scene as we load on into this next match. Tomb Kings, definitely a big enough map where a casket can be viable. You can also, like the Ushabti as well, have plenty of space to deal with things. All right, so loading on in. We'll have Norska up on the, I guess, the slight elevated position here. Both sides still going to be facing off pretty close to one another. And we do have a mammoth on the field. Actually, a couple of mammoths going to be rather interesting there. So we have a war shrine and a feral mammoth. And we do have double caster as well, because the Tomb Kings, especially with Ushabti Great Bows, can pretty much decide, we don't like this character, we're going to get rid of it. So he has brought a Shadows caster, going to be bringing, looks like I see, that's Enfeebling Foe, as well as the Scroll of Shielding, and of course Arcane Conduit. We have a Fimir Balefine of Fire with Burning Head, Scroll of Shielding, and Arcane Conduit. And then, of course, we do have Wolfric the Wanderer as well on horse with Seafang, Hunter Champions, and Fighter Die. So a nice little bit of wind spells to kind of deal with that front line. I do like the Seafang Burning Head combination. We do have a couple of Norscan Warhounds, some Marauder Berserkers, a couple more Spearmen. It seems like the green one is a little fond of those Spearmen. Generally, I feel like they aren't too useful. They can be useful against factions that don't really have any missile play, but having a shielded unit is very helpful on the approach, dealing with kind of kite. However, you don't really have to worry about that as Norska, or as against Tomb Kings. Norska can really trade very well against any skirmish that the Tomb Kings have. Otherwise, double mammoths, lots of the single entity fight's going to be where the Norskins are going to look to carry this and push on into the back line of the Tomb Kings. And the Tomb Kings, they do have some units to contend against that. They have the Sphinx of Usef, going to be bringing up with the pretty much the best monster killer in the game. Has a bonus versus large armor piercing, 550 weapon strength, and it has a 35 bonus versus large fire attacks and magic attacks as well. We have some skeleton warriors and skeleton spearmen in that front line. We also have the Eyes of the Desert, the Sepulchral Stalkers ROR, and they are also very good at bursting down other large targets, especially at close range. We do have some skeleton horsemen for a bit of mobility. We have some skeleton archers. We do have a Necrotech as well, and I do see going to be running with that Sphinx with the Elixir of Might, plus 60% melee attack and melee and base weapon damage. And we have Restore. We do have the Vambraces of the Sun, minus 9 melee attack and plus 22 weakness to fire damage. And since the Sphinx of Usep does do fire damage, there's a very nice combination there. Stone Shaper as well to kind of keep that missile resist against any javelins. We do have Ushabti Grateful, the Chosen of the Gods ROR, and Arkan the Black. Going to be bringing, I believe I see Spirit Leech. I think that is the Doom and Darkness, and we have Soul Blight as well with, of course, the Remortis, Staff Nagash, and the Tomb Blade of Arkan. Pretty standard stuff, so we're trying to do a little leadership nuke, and that will work actually kind of effectively as the Tomb Kings against Norska. Yes, Bob, we did see a Nakai Perfect Vigor blob earlier on. It didn't quite work out because everything else died in that matchup. We are going to be advancing here in this fight as Arkan getting a little ahead of himself. Needs to be a little careful because there are some Norscan Warhounds around to pounce on him. Looks to be getting a summon, actually just getting a Spirit Leech. Going to be trying to get down Wolfric the Wanderer, but he does get Hunter championed, and he does get his own summon into the mix of things, trying to peel off these Norscan Warhounds, but in comes Wolfric the Wanderer. And this could be a very bad initial engagement by Awi Dawi, as Arkan Lex so far hasn't taken a whole lot of damage, but those mammoths might have a thing or two to say about that. So far, getting very lucky. Libra Mortis also does go down. Give himself a nice little bit of physical resist and leadership. Probably definitely overextended there. Needed to be a lot more careful. He did not need to be doing that. That was very, very dangerous, and he pretty much wasted a Libra Mortis trying to save himself there. But now the Sphinx of Useft is now getting surrounded by these feral mammoths, as well as the Wolfric the Wanderer, and while he is a monster killer, he is not the best when it comes to dealing with a ton of monsters at the same time. Like a one-on-one, he will beat any of these units, but we do have the Eyes of the Desert in the back doing some nice bit of damage, but a Burning Head roasting through these units. Going to be catching some of the Warhounds, but it also does a ton of damage to these skeleton archers and a nice Sea Fang as well, roasting through these skeleton warriors, doing a ton of damage. And Norska so far on the blitz doing quite well, but he is able to break the War Mammoth Warshine, who had the Soul Blight on him, and he is just taking a ton of damage. The Sepulchral Stalkers able to whittle through him. As the Bruce of the Hound, though, they are unbreakable, so all of that doom and darkness won't have anything to do. Down falls the War Mammoth with Warshine, but the Sphinx of Usept has taken a ton of damage in return. The Necrotech is also here trying to help as well, but down goes the Sphinx of Usept. All of that armor sundering from the the Femur Balefiends really helped in that engagement quite a bit. And so far, even though the bounce power is quite even, they did lose a Mammoth for the Usept and the Sphinx, and I think that is definitely a trade that Norska will be rather happy with, because you don't have to deal with that Sphinx anymore. Right now, you only have to worry about the Eyes of the Desert that can really deal with the Feral Mammoth, though the Feral Mammoth has taken a ton of damage right now. So all of the big monsters very well might be seeing themselves off the battlefield very early on in this fight. And we'll see just how well this little blob fight is going, though, as Arkan himself, again, doesn't want to be anywhere near this. He is not a melee combatant. He has Hunter of Champions down on him again. I hear a Burning Head in the rear, going to be roasting through those Skeleton Spearmen and just going right on down the line, going through King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion as well. A beautiful Burning Head roasting through many of the Tomb Kings here, and that is one of the big reasons why this matchup is rather favored for the Norscan forces, is all of the wind spells they have. Anything with Lore of Fire is really good against the Tomb Kings, and even though the Feral Mammoth is rampage right now into these Ushabti will be gone momentarily, and then that Mammoth will be able to focus his efforts more closely on Arkan and the rest of the forces. And yeah, there is still the Eyes of the Desert left, but there's just so much infantry around them. I don't think they're going to be able to really be free for long enough to fire in, get a lot of damage in, and there's no really any good targets left anyways. Arkan is on death's door as Wolfric the Wanderer is just punishing Arkan very, very quickly. Hits landing more and more often. Enfeebling Foe is also on top of Arkan, lowering his melee defense even lower. And yeah, it is only a matter of time before he falls, and I think army losses are only seconds away as well, as the only thing that is left is these Ushabti Great Bows, the Chosen of the Gods in the back, and the Eyes of the Desert are going to be taken out of the fight pretty quickly as well. And Awidawi does concede. Norska, once again, winning the fight, doing quite well. The Sphinx, again, the overextension by Awidawi here was too risky. Like for Arkan, trying to Spirit Leech down Wolfric is an idea to try. However, how he did it, getting way too far forward with the mobility. Like once he saw these Norscan Warhounds, should have realized, oh crap, we're going to get surrounded here. But yeah, the Chosen of the Gods, the Sepulchre did pretty well. The Chosen of the Gods, though, and the Sphinx, they didn't really do so well. The Sphinx was only able to deal with the War Mammoth Warshine, which was only brought down with the help of the Eyes of the Desert, and nothing else really got its value. Well, on the other side, the Feral Mammoth did exceptionally well, getting almost 2k in value. Same thing with Wolfric and the Femur Balefiend of Fire, with some very juicy burning heads. And even the Femur Balefiend of Shadows that didn't even have any damage-dealing spells did quite well with its armor sundering, able to really pluck away at the other forces quite effectively. So we'll swing on over there. Update the score. Is now 2-0, going into match point for the green one. Update the map as well. The next map is going to be Storm Demon. All right, here we are. Yeah, the Tomb King build, it was all about the overextension, I think, in that fight. The Sphinx, Arkan, the Necrotech, they all overextended beyond their lines. They needed to kind of be they had the range advantage. They did not need to advance upon that. The Chosen of the Gods should have just been able to fire away throughout the course of that fight. But quite well. It went very well for Norska in that fight. Next map is set. Okay, so green one going to be going Bretonnia, banning Dowie. So we'll update our little picks and bans here. We go in Bretonnia, banning Dowie. And in response, let's see what Awi Dawi does have. All right, update this as well. Banning Dawi. There we go. Gonna need to pull a translator in here for chat. Well, Alicia, this is his, I believe, his second tournament, so it is very natural for him to be a little nervous here. I'm not sure how far he got in the other tournament, but he has done very well in the tournaments he has played. It looks like he's going to be going High Elves here against Bretonnia, which is actually, that's an interesting pick, because I'm pretty sure Bretonnia favors High Elves, is favored against that. So in response, we are going to be going with High Elves. There we go. All set. Well, he didn't necessarily YOLO Arcan away. He came very close to it, and he ended up having to waste one of his Liber Mortises and his summon just to make sure that he didn't die. So it's kind of a waste of those abilities there just for a single Spirit Leech, and he definitely had... but yeah, he has definitely done quite well today, as Delwall was saying. Yeah, the green one has definitely been on point so far in the semis and finals. After his first match against Leopard, he's been doing very, very well. All right. So, yeah, for this matchup, because I'm pretty sure Bretonnia is favored here. Yeah, so it's a very interesting counter pick. We'll see how well this does go. All right. And on Storm Demon as well. Now, with this map, it's a really large map in general. I do like the aesthetics of the map. However, the problem with this map is the deployment zones are very, very small. Though, I guess for Bretonnia, they might actually be a little squished because they're probably going to bring in 20 stack. And the problem is that Bretonnia their cav is rather good against the High Elves, getting into the backline, because the only thing that can really contend against Bretonnia cav is Dragon Princes. And yeah, the Dragon Princes just get pretty much overwhelmed in this fight. And of course, you have the Fae as well. It's like there's a certain limit to the healing that the High Elves can do. The Star, like Alariel with the Star of Avalorn is pretty helpful here, especially if you're trying to contend the cav fight. But it's gonna be an interesting one. So I think a lot of that, why there's so many Spanish people in the chat right now, is EC, the green one. The EC is a Spanish clan, I believe. So pretty much all of his clanmates that are here, and there is also quite a few Spanish just the Spanish, I guess, presence in the tournament is pretty good overall. A double, yeah. Well, it's not that late. It's not that late, Bob. All right. Well, both sides should be getting ready pretty soon here. All right, green one is ready to go. Just waiting on Awi Dawi. Should be a good match. Of course, this is the match point for the green one. If he does win this, he does earn his spot in the final, which is going to be taking place fairly soon. Just depends on everyone's schedule on when they can get around for a nice little 4-man tournament. Yeah, there's also quite a few Italian people in the tournament scene as well. Let's see. I want to say, can't remember which. There is an Italian clan. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure someone in the chat remembers. I'm trying to remember. It's one I heard recently. Okay, so LP, that's the one I was thinking of, and CLL is. So I didn't know that CLL was Italian as well. So there's a couple Italian clans then. So a nice little presence there. And I know ODM is a French, or mostly French clan. There is a few others in there, but pretty much everyone in that does speak French. VM is mostly a Russian clan. Both sides are ready, so we'll load on into this. Pay an English teacher for Yosema. Alright, so we're loading on in, so we'll switch over the screen to the game here, and we'll go over both the armies as soon as we're all loaded on in. Green one is up to zip in this best of 5. All right. So in these warpstone craters, we'll be seeing our third fight of the finals on the outskirts of a Lizardman city. So for Bretonia, we have the Royal Pegasus Knights, a pair of those up in the sky, and King Lewin Leoncoeur is going to be supporting that Air Force. We do have a Stamsel of Life. We're bringing Earthblood and Regrowth. We have 4 peasant mobs for that front line. We've got men-at-arms, a couple of them with shields, and then we have the mass peasant bowman archers. We have a pox arrow, 2 pox arrows, and 3. So plenty of poison on the field. And we have a couple Knights of the Realm as well, with their 68 charge bonus, 90 armor, and bronze shields. And that is going to wrap things up for that army. I mean, it's Bretonia. You're going to be seeing peasant mobs in the front. You're going to see a lot of archers. The 2 Pegasus Knights going to be a little interesting pick, but we'll see how the Hiles have things to deal with it. Okay. So, now for the Hiles, we have some White Lions of Trace mixed in with some Rangers to help kind of chew through these men-at-arms and the peasants. We have some spears as well. We have a few archers to boot on top of that for archers. We have the Phoenix Guard as well to help kind of keep those cavalry at bay. We have the Fireborn Dragon Prince's ROR. We have Alariel the Radiant gonna be bringing, looks like we have Earthblood, Shield of Thorns. We have Tempest, which is going to be quite helpful here actually. So we do have Tempest on the field, and we have the Star of Avalorn as well. And that is going to be as well as Foz Protection. The Boon of Isha to give magic damage to surrounding. And I'm not so sure that was a good pick here, because a lot of things do have magic resist on Bretonia's side. And then, yeah, just going to be Spearmen and the like. We do have a Noble as well on horseback. And that is going to be the armies. So let's get things going. So it looks like Awi Dawi may have accidentally readied up a little too early. We can start when... Oh, it already started. Okay. Alright, so the Pegasus Knights do have vanguards. They were able to kind of deploy outside of the pretty cramped formation for the initial deployment zone. I think the Bretonnians definitely filling up most of that. But yeah, the High Elf box here, I think Jimmy is kind of making a little point to that. There's a... Oh, Lord Sherm, thanks for the subscriber. And then for the rest of the... forces here, it's a mix of things. Black Phillip as well. Thanks for the sub. But yeah, the mix of units, we have Rangers, you have White Lions, you have the Phoenix Guard. It's really a mix of things. Yeah, you do have the Spearmen, which is like the only thing that has more than one of. And then there's the Archers in the middle. So we'll see how that is able to handle things, but it's gone. I mean, they do have enough archers, and Tempest as well is going to be very helpful. However, there isn't like a Plague of Rust caster, so while the archers will be able to do decent work, it's not going to be able to do too much of the Tempest. As you can see, it does go down on top of the Royal Pegasus Knights. Going to be slowing them down, doing a nice little bit of damage. They do pull out of it for the most part. They still took quite a bit of damage. And now we do have a spear kind of getting a little bit ahead of the rest of the forces, as we do have Awi Dawi trying to position his forces here to try and get a good look at the rest of the army. But all of these peasant bowmen now are just going to be kind of focusing down. I mean, look how these archers' health just drop as all of the peasant bowmen just focus them down to half, and then the second volley will very much likely finish them off, and then they'll likely just be jumping from archer to archer, finishing off that ranged support. And once the ranged support is gone, we will have King Lewin and the two Royal Pegasus Knights with the only thing to worry about is that Tempest. And King Lewin himself, while the Tempest doesn't really do a whole lot of damage to single entities. Once those archers are gone, he won't really have to worry too much about that. And he does, of course, have his own innate regen. And he is going to be assisting that frontline engagement, though, as the White Lions and the Phoenix Guard being able to quickly, very quickly break these peasant mobs. And the High Elves just really need to kind of break into that back line, shut down those peasant bowmen archers as quickly as they can. There isn't a whole lot of mobility for the High Elves to deal with, but there's enough of it because they only have the Fireborn as the real counter mobility force here. The Tempest is really good at keeping these Royal Pegasus Knights at bay. But King Lewin is going to be another threat entirely. As long as he stays away from this Phoenix Guard, which is getting a little too close to right now, I think he's going to be able to kind of pull things back. Yeah, now the archers of the High Elves are being able to target the peasant bowmen, doing some good job routing off a couple of them, really lessening that intense focus fire that they have. And the Star of Avalorn does go down, going to be healing up the White Lions as well as the Phoenix Guard, keeping them all nice and healthy. Millwall didn't really need any of that healing, but keeping the White Lions and the Phoenix Guard nice and healthy is really going to help a lot. However, you are looking at a very open back line. The only thing protecting the back line is the Fireborn, and the Royal Pegasus Knights are going to have free reign to really kind of clean up shop as long as these Fireborn are currently occupied. And Knights of the Realm going to be getting a nice charge in. Fireborn do redirect their charge at the last second, and they should be able to beat the Knights of the Realm. But they don't want to be taking too unnecessary amounts of damage because they still have to deal with King Lewin. There is another Knights of the Realm left. But the center pocket of High Elf infantry is still holding very strong right now. The Phoenix Guard able to repel everything that the Bretonnians can throw at it. It's a very elite, so the Bretonnians really need to wear down these Phoenix Guard as best they can. And as long as Lariel is able to kind of keep them nice and healthy and active, the roaming Fireborn should be able to help deal with the Royal Pegasus Knights and the Knights of the Realm. And King Lewin, though, is going to be a little bit more of a threat, I think, than most of the rest of the Bretonnians here. Low bounce power is actually a little bit in the High Elf favor at this point, though we do have plenty of the Bretonnians returning to the field right now. We have Peasant Bowmen are going to be returning and focusing fire, and the ammunition of the High Elves is getting a little bit on the lower side, while the ammunition on Bretonnians is doing a little bit better. But there's still enough ammunition left to really put a nice bit of punish down, as the Royal Pegasus Knights do get pushed off by the Fireborn. Very excellent cleanup in the rear by Awi Dawi here, and the rest of the mobility of the Bretonnians is a little on the lower side, as stuff is returning ever so slightly. King Lewin, though, is kind of needed in that front line. Doesn't really need to, can't really afford to be chasing off too much in the rear. There's plenty of other units with the Royal Pegasus Knights of the Realm to do that. And yeah, just at this point, though, Bretonnia is running out of infantry and archer support. Everything is just like washing up against the very elite units, but these Phoenix Guard are starting to take a lot of bit of damage now. All that focus fire from the Bretonnians, focusing them down, because the Phoenix Guard is that hard thing for them to kill. Like, they're good against King Lewin, the Royal Pegasus Knights, the Knights of the Realm. Everything like that is very, very helpful. But the Fireborn right now being able to keep King Lewin at least on the ground for a little bit, though he is able to pull out as the Royal Pegasus Knights do kind of come in and help push them away. These other units just getting up into the air before the Fireborn can reach them. But the ammunition on the High Elves, I think, is going to be a bit of a concern, because once that ammunition is gone, the only thing to shut down these archers is going to be the Fireborn. So they really need to hope that the ammunition that they have left is going to be enough to deal with the archers, because like this unit right here, you don't need to worry about that unit. It's so low on ammunition. Try and get rid of the ones that have a lot of ammunition left, because that's what's going to punish those Phoenix Guard, the Fireborn as well. But everything else just needs to try and make sure that those archers are shut down as quickly as they can. Yeah, at this point, we starting to see that ammunition start to wear out on both sides bit by bit. These archers did use up all their ammunition, so for them routing, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but the other two units of archers are getting very low on ammunition. And there is returning archers for the Bretonnians, and now the Phoenix Guard and everything else is slowly being backed up. We do have another Star of Avalorn going down, and these Phoenix Guard aren't quite in the and now they are in, so they are going to be starting getting healed up right now, and the Fireborn are getting healed up, and as well as Alariel, the Noble as well. So definitely getting the healing that these units need. However, the Phoenix Guard, you don't really see too much of that healing. Nice, they have lost just a few too many models to really capitalize on that healing like they would like to. And now, yeah, King Lewin just kind of cleaning up shop with the rest of the units, slowly breaking down the High Elves. Though the High Elves, as I said, still have that balance of power slightly in their favor. There is still quite a bit of spear infantry left, and there's not a whole lot of men-at-arms to deal with things, and even now the Bretonnian peasant bowmen are starting to get less and less armor themselves, and King Lewin diving down into the middle of these Phoenix Guard and the Fireborn. Could be a little risky dive here, but he is trying to deal with Alariel and that Noble. But we'll see how much damage he does end up taking in return. Of course, he does have his own little bit of regen, which I believe he did bring. But yeah, slowly breaking things down. The Sword of Corone is popped by King Lewin, reducing the effectiveness of everything inside of it from the enemy. Minus 24 melee defense and armor. So able to really put a punish on those Fireborn. But Alariel and the Noble still sitting pretty in terms of health right now. And the Royal Pegasus Knights getting quite low. Knights of the Realm running out of gas themselves. And the High Elves are just like through attrition, slowly eliminating the stopping power of the Bretonnians. And King Lewin is sitting right at his heal cap now. So we're not going to be seeing any more healing for him. And he is in a rough spot right now, to say the least. He is surrounded by elite halberds. Of course, those elite halberds are now pulling out of that engagement. I think they were chasing these peasant bowmen, although they really are needed in here. However, the Noble, Alariel, all of the Fireborn is going to be able to actually pull through here. And surprisingly enough, it looks like the High Elves are going to take this game. Bretonnians unable to punish the High Elves enough, and the High Elves, yeah, they just were able to outlast everything that the Bretonnians threw at them, and they will take that fight. So update the scorecard here. So Awi does take a round. High Elves do win out against Bretonnia. So actually quite a bit of value from Alariel. The archers themselves were able to do very well, and the Fireborn 1900. Phoenix Guard 1000, but they were just there and able to beat back. Like, none of the men-at-arms peasants could even pretty much scratch these two units. So they were able to just kind of withstand. Even the spearmen did quite well. And yeah, did quite well indeed. Very unorthodox build by the High Elves is able to win the day. So a swing on in to our next fight here. So, all right, and I will be right back. These guys will go through their picks and bans. All right, we are back. There we go. Got to set the map for them beforehand. All right, let's see. Well, still a lot of Spanish in chat, so not really sure what everyone's going on about. So, looks like green one is going to be going Tomb Kings for this match, though. So he is going to be going with his Tomb Kings. And see what he does ban. He cannot ban Dawi or Counts, which are actually both really good factions against him, against the Tomb Kings. So it's very possible that Dawi is going to be going against them, or going with them, though it looks like he has Skaven. Oh, wait. Oh, no, it's, I messed that up. It's Awi Dawi's picking and banning, and he picks Skaven banning Wood Elves. Okay, Skaven banning Wood Elves, and then we have green one going Tomb Kings. Missed that chat a little bit there. So So we have a Skaven, and we're going to be banning Wood Elves. And then the counter is going to be Tomb Kings. There we go. Alright. So yeah, just had to feed the dogs real quick. Otherwise they were going to start becoming rather vocal. Most of the chat is Spanish, but yeah, most of the viewers, though, are still English. So yeah, I do try and keep it a little bit more English. I know I haven't really been pushing that too hard, but... And then we were banning Wood Elves. And the counter was Tomb Kings. Oops. That one. There we go. Alright, so both sides are ready. So let's load on into this. Right, switch on over the scene. It is 2-1 with the green one up on top. And yeah, we're going to have Awi Dawi take this fight if he wants to push a game 5. Might. Both the dogs already done eating. All right, so here are both armies. So we have Skeleton Warriors for the front line of the Tomb Kings. We are going to have, kind of expecting a little bit of Tomb Guard, but I do not see any in that front line. We have some Skeleton Horsemen for mobility, as well as a couple of Skeleton Chariots as well. And we do have the Sphinx of Useft. Going to be looking to take out some of those very large targets, but that does make him a very large target as well. We do have Arkan the Black with a Lich Priest of Light and a Necrotech as well. Necrotech is going to be bringing the, I believe that is the Van Braces of the Sun, as well as the Restore and the Missile-Resistant Armor. Mage Priest of Light bringing just Shem's Burning Gaze and that ability that does give increased power reserves and recharge rate depending on how many units are around it, up to 5. And I did see Arkan the Black here. He does have the Tomb Blade of Arkan, Staff and Nagash, Spirit Leech, and then just the Life Leeching lore passive. We have some Screaming Skull Catapults as well, one of those, 2 of them. And yeah, just going to be cheap front line, Screaming Skull, Chariots, Sphinx of Usept. And we'll see what the Skaven do have. The Screaming Skull, actually fairly good unit themselves, especially against a low leadership faction. Focusing firing on a Zap should be able to rout the crew off in just a couple of volleys. And for the Skaven, though, we have Clan Rat Spears going to be mixed up there. We do have Nandihu Sharpshooters who do have Snipe. We have another Jezzail up in on the ridge here. Otherwise, we have some Slingers, some more Skaven or Clan Rat Spears. And then we do have Throt the Unclean as the Lord. Going to be bringing, looks like we have Remoldered, we have the Beast Pack, Creature Killer, there's Remoldered, and Master Controller. We have the Avalanche Mortars ROR, second time seeing them today. We have a Plague Priest as well, going to be bringing, one sec, and he's going to be bringing the Vermintide as well as Pestilent Birth as well. And then, yeah, just some more Wolf Rats with poison in the rear, some spears protecting those Zap. But so far, shots going to start raining on out, and I think the Jezzails definitely need to focus the Screaming Skulls first. I know the Sphinx of Usept is a very nice big target, but having both of these Screaming Skulls target this Zap, we're just going to see that leadership drop, because each of those Screaming Skulls do have a Discourage effect, so if it does hit, It does provide a nice little bit of leadership debuff. You can see just how low that's getting, and another volley will be probably enough to rout them off. And the shots from the Giselles, though, continuing just to look for the Sphinx of Usept here. It will do some nice bit of damage, but there is still that restore. And the only saving grace is the accuracy on the Screaming Skulls, and now you can see them all getting targeted down. The Avalanche Mortars have taken a bit of damage themselves, but now all of the Giselles just focusing down the Screaming Skull, and you can just see how quickly they kill artillery models, and that is why I usually don't even bother with Take It Zap Zap. The Giselles are the way to go for cleaning them out, and away goes one Screaming Skull, and the other is very much going to be the next target there. And Ika Zap Zap, though, is still able to sustain, has 3 models left, and just not quite enough time for those Screaming Skulls so far to be able to deal with them. But the front line is going to be engaging, and there is that nice little swell going right on through, hitting Throt, doing a ton of damage there. And the summon of Rat Ogres almost was in time to dodge it. But yeah, the Ikid Zap Zap continuing to take damage to itself. It is getting wavering right now. Another volley should be enough to break it. But yeah, the Chariots now getting into that back line, shutting down the Natty Boo Sharpshooters, also getting onto the Avalanche Mortars, doing a very good job there, and are now focusing down the Ikid Zap Zap. So even though the the Screaming Skulls weren't quite enough to deal with that right off the bat, these Chariots being a very nice pick, able to rout them off just off the charge, and able to also rout off all the other weapons teams as well for the Tomb Kings, or for the Skaven. And then the Tomb Kings going to be getting a nice little summon in on top of the Plague Monk summon, so summon v summon. All dead isn't really going to matter there. And now the Skeleton Horsemen able to shut down more of the range units, and even more of that, just the mass amount of troops able to shut down more and more of the range stuff for the Skaven. Now the Skaven do have their Wolf Rats, and the Wolf Rats with poison in hot pursuit of the Skeleton Chariots, and they should be able to slow them down enough to really get a nice little catch on them. And Throt has been able to heal himself up nice and full with his Remoldered. And he is going to be having to be very, very careful, though, of the Sphinx of Usept now, because if you take a look at what the Skaven still have, they do have their Natty Boo Boo Sharpshooters returning, so that is one thing that can help deal with the Sphinx of Usept. But, I mean, like, the Avalanche Mortars aren't really going to be able to do things a whole lot to them, and all the units that they have left isn't really going to be able to drag down that Sphinx of Usept, with the exception of the Giselles. There's only one Giselle unit left, and as soon as that is gone, I think that should be a very high priority for the Tomb Kings at this point, having one of the Chariots make sure that it's gone at whatever cost, essentially, because at that point, the only thing that the Sphinx of Usept really has to worry about, because Thras already used his Rat Ogre summon, the Sphinx then only has to worry about, like, losing leadership for crumbling, and we're going to be seeing that Ushapti summon coming down right into the middle of the Avalanche Mortars. Now, it is a 12-second wind-up now, but it is still not going to be enough time for the Skaven to really dodge that, as they do jump right on top of the Avalanche Mortars and are going to be routing them very, very quickly. And the Sphinx of Usept is now engaged with Throt, and yeah, Throt's going to be wanting to keep away from that Sphinx as long as he possibly can. And now, yeah, the Chariots getting in, shutting down these slingers, and I think it is just the beginning of the end for the Skaven. Tomb King's going to be able to really kind of pull through here. We do have a summon of Clan Rats, because kind of mucking up Arkan, but otherwise, yeah, taking a look back, there is not a whole lot left. There is the summon of Ushapti, which will eventually dissipate, and Throt can only do so much with those Wolf Rats. The crew for the Ikid Zap Zap, there's no way it's going to be able to get on top of its artillery units anymore. It just isn't feasible for them. The Tomb Kings just need to pretty much just push forward just a little bit, get around that, and the Sphinx of Usept is pretty much unopposed at this point. The only way I think I can see it going down is if Throt is able to engage it while the Sphinx is either busy engaging something else. But now the Light Wizard, or the Lich Priest of Light, going to be getting another nice little burst in, doing actually quite a bit of damage there to Throt. Even though he did try and dodge it, the Sphinx just going to be hounding for its last counters on the field is the two Giselles. And the Giselles, their times are going to be numbered here, as the Sphinx is going to be charging right on down the hill into these Warplock Giselles. And there is nothing going to be slowing it down. as it gallops its way in, and is going to be terrifying them off the right off the map, and is not quite going to be able to rout it off. And Throt, though, is healing up a little bit, has his second Remoldered, going to be hitting his healing cap. And there is a very spread out Tomb King army left. The Screaming Skull is going to be continuing to fire in at whatever they choose to at this point. And here is that kind of situation where the Sphinx actually could very likely go down here. Is he's surrounded by all these wolf rats with poison, and is still actually getting shot down by the Giselles. Giselles kind of unable to really get finished off completely, but the Skeleton Chariots do kind of come in, able to get them routed off the field, shatter them off that, and then they should just be able to go right on into the second unit of Giselles. And in comes the Necrotech as well to kind of help assist this engagement as best as it can. But that Sphinx is, as you can see, a little bit preoccupied by the rest of the wolf rats, but it is able to get its target priorities in check and is going to be hunting down Throt. And that is going to be army losses there with that swing of its blades. And the Tomb Kings and EC the Green One will win the final for the Rise of the Mortarchs. Very good fight there, spread out across the whole map, and doing quite well. And if you take a look at the results here, the Giselles initially opened fire into the Sphinx of Usept, and yeah, the Screaming Skulls is kind of what really needed to be dealt with, and they did deal with one very quickly. The other one was able to rack up value throughout the rest of the fight. But yeah, otherwise, the Avalanche Mortars got shut down so quickly. Throt did not really good. So yeah, Tomb Kings definitely have the advantage there anyways with all their fear against the Skaven. But that was a very good fight indeed, and EC, the Green One, will take it. So we'll go over to the bracket. He does advance. And then we could also go over to the Mortarchs and add his name to the final list, as he will take his spot in the finals. So GG, well played to all. Very nice performance by Aoi Dawi today for being new to the tournament scene. And Green One did, of course, very well on top of that. And yeah, that was a very good tournament today. Nice long 3-hour stream, lots of good back and forth. Had our first two go to 3 games. This one almost made it to the rubber match as well. But yeah, very good fight indeed. And I want to just send out a thank you to everyone who supported the channel. We just hit 500 subscribers the other day, which means we have applied to be a verified content creator with CA, which means early access, getting all that good stuff to you guys as early as I can. Not quite as early as the rest, but we are able to get, well, hopefully the application does go through and everything like that. But we did hit that milestone, so the next milestone is trying to work our way up to 1,000 subs and beyond. But yeah, definitely been a great start to the year so far, and definitely looking forward to all that is to come. And again, I want to thank you all again for supporting the channel. And if you don't support the channel, Bob Trish, well, I guess I'm going to be very disappointed in you. But anyways, again, thank you all for watching today. I do hope you all enjoyed the tournament. We had some excellent games today. And that is going to be all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed. And as always, have a good one.